However, under the dim firelight, the shadow of the drunken middle-aged man still staggered forward on the ground. Eek! No one was around, and the middle-aged man suddenly noticed his shadow. A smile appeared on his face as he pointed at the shadow, saying, "Are you drunk too?" Even though he was drunk, he still had some awareness. After staring at the shadow for a few seconds and realizing he was speaking nonsense, he burst into laughter. However, the next moment, he suddenly sobered up. Because on the ground, the head of his shadow suddenly split open into a crooked grin, emitting a strangely twisted and eerie laughter. "Who's there?" The middle-aged man's pupils dilated with shock, and with a roar of anger, he quickly circulated his energy and blood to shake off the drunkenness, swiftly drawing the long knife from his waist. His cultivation was evidently not low, as the blade's unsheathing stirred the wind around, making the firelight in the houses on both sides flicker. As the light flickered, the shadow on the ground began to sway left and right, teetering as if it might disappear at any moment. Yet the shadow's head continued to grin cruelly. Though the laughter became softer, barely audible, the middle-aged man's forehead was drenched in sweat. His expression grew increasingly panic-stricken. TSS. Suddenly, a faint sound arose. The middle-aged man sharply lowered his head to look at his shadow, his pupils constricting. On the ground behind his shadow, there was another identical shadow, and bizarrely, that shadow held a knife, quietly positioned at his neck. From a visual perspective, it seemed as though someone was pressed against his back, holding a knife to his throat. Whoosh! There was no one behind him. How could the middle-aged man not sense it? But fear gripped his heart, prompting him to instinctively turn and swing his knife, attempting to dispel the shadow on the ground. Splat! But alas, just as he lifted the big saber, the shadow of the knife on the ground made a swift slash, instantly decapitating the middle-aged man, and a column of blood spouted 2 to 3 meters high into the air from his neck. Boom! Heavy. The middle-aged man crashed to the ground. The shadow wielding the knife let out a few sadistic laughs. Noticing that nearby residents had been alerted and were coming over, it quietly vanished into the darkness. The head is gone. The decapitator has appeared again. Quick, go report this to the patrolling city guard army, quickly. Isn't this the 6th case? What do you mean 6th? I've heard it's already 9. What 9? I heard it's 16. Could it be that a deceitful monster has really infiltrated Hongmen City? We can't stay here anymore. Buy what you need and leave quickly. As several nearby residents gathered, witnessing the terrifying scene on the ground of the person separated from their head, the crowd erupted in panic. However, some quickly went to report to the patrolling city guard army. Everyone, disperse immediately. Do not gather here. A squad of about 20 or more, donned in golden armor, the city guard army arrived and promptly sealed off the scene. Fortunately, this place was somewhat removed from the main street, so there were only about 10 onlookers. After speaking to each, the city guard army quickly dismissed them and sent them on their way. Soon 2 individuals, draped in black and red summer clothes, each with a silver prison warden token at their waists, strode swiftly from the alley. The first was middle-aged in appearance, while the second couldn't have been more than 25 or 6. As they saw the decapitated body on the ground, both their expressions became extremely grim. The city guard army, sealing off the scene, saluted them one by one. Lord Xiang. Lord Bai. No need for formalities, everyone. Let's examine the body first. The newcomers were none other than Bai Shanning and Xiang Liang, who had taken office in Hongmen a month ago. Bai Shanning gestured for the city guard army to disperse and immediately proceeded with Xiang Liang to the body. He took out a piece of solidified fire oil, broke off a small piece, and directly placed it on the severed neck of the body. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. As the solidified fire oil came into contact with the body's neck, it immediately began to sizzle and smoke. Upon seeing this, Bai Shanning's expression grew significantly more serious. Of course, it wasn't just him. On the other side, Xiang Liang, attempting to identify the deceased through facial features and other bodily traits, and the surrounding 20-odd city guard army soldiers all slightly narrowed their eyes as the wounds on the corpse began to smoke. It's a deceitful monster. This decapitator must be a deceitful monster, as confirmed before. I thought it was just a rumor, but it seems to be true. Look at that corpse's physique. It had at least the strength of 10 main hairs. To be killed silently in an alley, no ordinary person could accomplish that. It must have been a deceitful monster. They, hearing the discussion among the city guard army soldiers, Bai Shanning sighed silently, then quickly walked over to Xiang Liang. Noticing Xiang Liang's grave expression, he assumed Xiang Liang hadn't been able to identify the deceased and softly inquired, "How is it? Can you recognize him? If not, we can check with the Civil Affairs Department." Xiang Liang raised his head and said in a deep voice, "This man's name is Zheng Xianglong, quite well known. I recognized him at once. He's in the blood ganoderma business, owns a shop in South City and lives at number 85 East District. Originally from Jinshan Town, he first came to Hongmen last August, bringing a batch of blood ganoderma to sell at Treasure Tower, making quite a profit. He likely has a stable source for blood ganoderma, for he came several times over the following month and reportedly made a lot of money overall." Chapter 1273. Chapter 419. Xiang Liang's prospects, dire situation at Hongmen, the decapitator spirit and a big score. Probably thinking that developing in Hongmen is better than Jinshan Town, he rented a shop last October and bought the residence at East District number 85, bringing his family of 12 to settle in Hongmen at the beginning of the year. After hearing Zheng Xianglong's information, Bai Shanning was slightly surprised. There are many people like him who have thrived in Hongmen, but those who can buy residences, rent shops, and bring their families to settle here are very few, probably only around 200 people in the entire city. No wonder Xiang Liang said this person is somewhat famous. That's not right. Bai Shanning immediately realized something and asked, "What is this person's strength?" 18 Zong. Upon hearing this answer, Bai Shanning instantly understood why Xiang Liang recognized the deceased's identity and showed such a solemn expression earlier. Zong, whose strength is almost on par with mine. No wonder he can earn so much money, renting shops and bringing his family to settle and invest. Of course, the real issue right now is not that. 18 Zong's strength was killed silently. This deceitful monster's strength is getting stronger and stronger, and now it can be basically confirmed that it specifically targets cold resistance level individuals. Upon hearing this, Xiang Liang remembered the 32 homicides previously caused by the deceitful monster, nodded and said solemnly, "The density of small torches in the South City now matches that of the North City, yet the deceitful monster can still continue killing. Either it is completely unafraid of the torches, or its concealment methods are extremely clever. Either way, it's very difficult to deal with." Several months ago, at the first sign of monsters in the city, Guardian Lin Kai had already transferred a large number of small torches and solidified fire oil from Xia City to respond. These two resources are so precious, of course, they cannot be recklessly used. Solidified fire oil aside, unless it's for official business, one must personally buy it with contribution value. Small torches are different. Given Great Xia's current large stockpile and the responsibility of maintaining city safety belonging to the government office, Lin Kai allocated some to be freely installed in the North City to specifically protect the safety of its residents. Once the torches were placed, the homicide rate in the North City drastically dropped, indeed preventing the deceitful monster. Seeing this, Lin Kai began placing them in the South City, although the density wasn't as high as in the North City. But that was at first. As time slowly passed, whether the monster found a pattern to the small torches or its power increased, or for some other reason, people in the city continued to fall victim. Lin Kai had no choice but to increase the density of the small torches in the South City. Now, practically every inhabited area in the city has small torches placed. Yet despite this, people are still falling victim. Not to mention, the deceased Zheng Xianglong, whose strength ranks at least in the top 500 in the city of hundreds of thousands, was silently beheaded. What about the others of lesser strength if targeted by the deceitful monster? Xiang Liang lowered his head, rummaged through Zheng Xianglong's body for a while and quickly found a black oily substance. He took it out, his face suddenly sank. Zheng Xianglong had solidified fire oil, why didn't he use it? The Treasure Tower already sells solidified fire oil, and with Zheng Xianglong's wealth, it's not surprising that he could afford it. But why didn't he use it when facing the deceitful monster? Bai Shanning breathed slightly through his nose, furrowed his brow and said, "He just finished drinking. Looking at his expression before dying, he should have been scared. Either he didn't think of using the solidified fire oil, or that thing was too strange. He knew that even using solidified fire oil would be of no use." Xiang Liang shook his head slightly, his expression extremely heavy. The former is still somewhat manageable, but if it's the latter, it proves the deceitful monster's strength and skills far exceed their imagination. Information about the monsters is basically uncontainable. People have already started leaving the city gradually. There are confirmed 3 monsters causing chaos in the city. If they continue killing, a mass exodus will certainly erupt. Upon hearing Xiang Liang, Bai Shanning also furrowed his brow tightly and continued, "Relying on ourselves is not enough. Report to Director Yuan and Lord Lin." Bashing is also unstable. Director Yuan went there half a month ago, and Lord Lin went to Mayan for business 5 days ago, returning the day after tomorrow. Bai Shanning sighed slightly and said, "Chief of Punishment Zhao has to focus on the North City and can't step away. We can only find Commander Liu to send more personnel to patrol the South City extensively." Upon hearing Bai Shanning's suggestion, Xiang Liang furrowed his brow. But in the end he could only nod slightly, saying in a helpless tone, "There's no choice, it's the only option." The deceitful monster only dares to kill in alleys and shadowy places, and until now, all its crimes have been individual attacks. So dispatching personnel to patrol South City continuously is effective. The problem is the population in South City is so large. The 2-kilometer main street is okay, but the residential areas on the east and west sides have at least 20,000 people. It's impossible to keep an eye on so many people. The Cloud Dragon Army is stationed in Hongmen. The soldiers patrolling South City every night are dispatched by Liu Yuan. When the monsters first caused chaos, Liu Yuan dispatched 1 battalion of 5 squads, totaling 100 personnel. Now, that's increased to 5 battalions, 500 personnel, almost half of the entire army. Cloud Dragon Army soldiers are human too. It's impossible for them to patrol 24 hours a day non-stop. They need to rotate and rest. Patrolling South City daily with 500 personnel rotating is nearly the limit. Chapter 1274. Chapter 419. Xiang Liang's prospects, dire situation at Hongmen, the head-severing fiend and a big operation. How to increase further, what more can be done? We can only mobilize more troops from other places. Xiang Liang happened to know that his superior, Zhao Bao, seemed to be planning this already, just waiting for Lin Kai to return from Mayan, then he would propose it. No matter how many more troops are brought over, it ultimately treats the symptoms, not the cause. Plus, having additional troops for patrols to ensure safety, doesn't it highlight the incompetence of us prison wardens? Xiang Liang looked at Zhang Xianglong's corpse on the ground, his expression unusually bleak. As Xiang Liang and Bai Shanning were both troubled by the decapitation ghost. In front of house number 492 in the East District, Chu Dongning, wearing a felt hat, glanced around to confirm no one was following before quickly knocking on the door. "Knock, knock, knock." "Who?" "It's me." Apparently, the person inside the house knew who the visitor was just by hearing the voice, immediately hurrying to open the door. As soon as Chu Dongning entered, the door was quickly shut. "Lord Chen, I clearly saw that decapitation ghost." Upon entering the courtyard, Chu Dongning immediately spoke. The person who opened the door for him, the owner of the house, was none other than Chen Yiking. When he heard Chu Dongning's words, Chen Yiking's eyes immediately lit up. He asked, "It killed someone in the South City again. Can you ascertain what kind of deceitful monster it is?" Chu Dongning first nodded to answer the first question, then took out a fiery red jade from his body and continued. "Just now in the South City, as soon as the deceit detection stone reacted, I immediately followed it. That decapitation ghost targeted a drunken cold resistance level, hiding in the man's shadow, and beheaded him with just 1 strike." After saying this, he quickly added, "The man's strength was 18 zong, not too strong." Hiding in the shadow. Upon hearing this, Chen Yiking's brow furrowed tightly. He then slowly shook his head and said, "That is a non-corporeal deceitful object. It's even hard to discern its kind, making it extremely difficult to deal with. Looks like we won't be benefiting from this." Chu Dongning immediately nodded in agreement, saying, "I saw the whole process of the decapitation ghost killing. Judging from the deceit detection stone's reaction, the shadow on the ground should not be its main body. Great Xia is really unlucky. Hongmen just started a half-year ago and encountered such a difficult deceitful monster." Pausing slightly, he continued, "And it's not just the decapitation ghost. Currently, there are at least 5 deceitful monsters in the city, with the strongest likely being that cat-shaped demon monster. Its methods of hiding are even better. It has a fondness for eating silver, and without a deceit detection stone, I estimate even Xia Hong himself would find it hard to solve. You're wrong. From my observation, the crafty monster that can emit the life-taking sound is the strongest. I almost fell victim to it a few days ago. Chen Yiking seemed to have interacted with that crafty monster before, and when he mentioned it, his eyes showed a hint of apprehension. Then he coldly chuckled and continued, "That's how it is when there's a large population. Hongmen's population is close to 300,000, so deceitful monsters from all over naturally come smelling it. Here, unlike Xia City, nothing suppresses them. Over time, big trouble will inevitably arise." Pausing slightly, he then lamented, "It's a shame. Judging by the abilities these deceitful monsters have shown, the gains from killing them would surely be significant. If it weren't too far, I'd really want to go back to Chen Kang to get some help." Chu Dongning nodded, suddenly showing a look of excitement, and whispered, "Lord, shall I take a trip back?" Upon hearing this, Chen Yiking immediately shook his head and said, "It's too far for a round trip and too much trouble for the border army lords plus." He paused, his eyes flashing with a cold light, continuing, "The 6 towns are truly scared by Xia Hong. Over the past 4 months, I've killed over 100 of them, shifting all the blame to Great Xia. Besides verbal condemnation, they haven't reacted at all." "Not surprising." Chu Dongning immediately continued, "Last year, Xia Hong's demonstrated power, 12 beast kings plus over 30,000 elite troops, was enough to terrify the 6 towns. Moreover, Hongmen's opening for trade was initially Great Xia's strategy to undermine the 6 towns. Early this year, Hongmen government announced the allowance for outsiders to reside in Hongmen or join Great Xia. The 6 towns' populations have started to dwindle. The longer it goes on, the more they will lose, until eventually, the 6 towns won't be able to contend with Great Xia, and this Mo South Slope ultimately. So, we can no longer let the situation in Mo South Slope follow Great Xia's plan step by step. Since the 6 towns are so afraid, I will find a way from Great Xia. I don't believe the 9 towns. Situation is so hard to stir." "Lord, do you have a plan already?" "The day after tomorrow, I'm going to pull off something big. Xia Hong isn't tyrannical. I want to see how tyrannical he can be." Upon hearing the day after tomorrow, Chu Dongning seemed to understand something, and his expression slightly brightened. P.S. Chen Yiking, fellow readers, do you think my big plan will succeed? Give some subscriptions and I'll start right away. Chapter 1275. Chapter 420. Rest in Fengyang Village, Ambush and Severe Injuries, Hatred and Fury. The 9th year of Great Xia, February 18. Southern Chui Mountain Town, late night. On the Bluestone Road within Jiangyan Realm, 2 in front and 3 behind, a total of 5 figures are rushing southward amidst the wind and snow, all carrying backpacks, breathing somewhat hurriedly, clearly having traveled for a long time. The man on the left in the front row looks to be in his early 30s, wearing a white summer outfit, a long sword hanging at his waist, his brows handsome and eyes exuding a strong presence of leadership, clearly the leader. The man on his right looks older, probably in his early 40s, dressed in yellow summer clothes, holding a standard knife. From the degree of his labored breathing, it is apparent his strength is below that of the leader. The 3 following behind are all dressed in black, ages ranging from 30 to 40, despite their flushed faces and heavy breathing. They are striving to keep up with the 2 in front, evidently in a subordinate's posture. The young man in white suddenly slows his pace, then turns his head to notice the somewhat chaotic breaths of the 3 beside and behind him, and slowly speaks. "All right, another 5 or 6 kilometers and we'll reach Peak Mountain Realm. No need to rush." The 3 behind immediately slow their pace, breathing a slight sigh of relief. Li Longkai, clothed in yellow, does the same, slowing his pace, and once his breath steadies, turns to the young man in white and says with a helpless smile, "No use trying to compete, right? Fortunately, Lord Lin waited for us along the way. If he were to travel at full speed, not to mention those 3, even I might struggle to keep up." The young man in white is none other than Lin Kai, the recently appointed Hongmen guardian from last year. Hearing, Lin Kai turns to Li Longkai and smiles. "Cultivation varies. My strength is slightly better than Brother Li. Naturally, my pace is a bit quicker. Those 3 certainly can't keep up, but for Lord Li to say he can't, that's a bit exaggerated." "All right, Lord Lin, no need to console me." Li Longkai waves his hand. He was originally the Deputy Military Preparation of the East 8th District Camp Supply Department, and got promoted at the same time as Lin Kai last July, becoming the Military Preparation Envoy of the Hongmen Supply Department. Speaking of his resume, It is rather extensive. Prime member of the first hunting team of Great Xia, first group of nobles post-Long Yu War, guardian of Valley, deputy military preparation envoy of East 8th District Camp Supply, and now the Hongmen Supply Department military preparation. A rich resume generally indicates notable accomplishments. Without achievements it would be impossible to steadily rise. His strength too was gradually enhanced accompanying his resume. When he came to Hongmen last year, his strength was already at 26 manes. At the time he could feel Lin Kai's strength was greater but limited, at most a 3 to 4 manes difference. After over half a year, his strength has risen to 29 manes, originally thinking the gap with Lin Kai should have narrowed a bit. But on this Mayan journey, he realized he was gravely mistaken. Last year he could still sense the approximate gap between them. Now he cannot see through Lin Kai's chi muscle changes at all, meaning their strength gap has not narrowed, but rather widened. We both use Dan medicine to enhance strength, but Lord Lin possesses a superior battle body, better aptitude, younger in age, and his assets rank among the top in current Great Xia. Thus the cultivation resources he can exchange are greater than mine, with aptitude, age, and financial prowess. These three factors combined, his cultivation speed being faster is quite normal. As Li Longkai ponders, Lin Kai has led the four moving southward another 5 to 6 kilometers. He raises his gaze to look forward, saying, "We've entered Peak Mountain realm. The closest here is Fengyang village, correct?" Li Longkai immediately nods. "Correct, it's Fengyang village, about 7 kilometers from here." 7 kilometers. Upon hearing the distance, Lin Kai furrows his brows thinking for a moment, then shakes his head. "Too far. Let's not go all the way to Fengyang, just find a nearby place to rest first. Once well rested, head straight back to Hongmen." From Hongmen to Mayan, the total distance exceeds 500 kilometers. Naturally, they couldn't have camped outdoors all the way. Plus, the Ice Abyss wilderness is full of danger. Finding a village-level camp to rest is evidently safer and more comfortable. Well before departure, they had planned the round-trip route. Where about to rest and replenish along the way, it had already been thoroughly discussed. The initial plan was to rest a bit at Fengyang. Now Lin Kai suggests finding anywhere to rest, essentially a last-minute adjustment to the plan. Li Longkai indeed feels tired, desiring a village to rest his feet, but considering Peak Mountain is already close to Hongmen, the direct distance back is less than 40 kilometers. Resting at Hongmen clearly sounds more appealing, thus he nods in agreement. The three following naturally wouldn't express any opinions. Upon seeing Li Longkai agree, Lin Kai immediately looks around seeking a suitable spot for 5 to light a campfire and rest. "Lord, there's no water left in the luggage. The coal stone is also exhausted. Extracting water with wood is too slow. Perhaps it's best to rest at Fengyang village." Yet at this moment, one among the three followers steps forward, hands clasped in hesitation, speaking up. As the follower steps forward, Lin Kai's brows slightly raise. After listening to the suggestion, he turns his head, sharing a subtle glance with Li Longkai, then nods. "Indeed, 40 kilometers without water won't do. We'll stick to the plan. Rest at Fengyang village then." With that, Lin Kai takes the lead, moving south. Li Longkai swiftly catches up, his brows immediately furrowing deeply. The follower who suggested catches up with them, a flicker in his gaze. The final two express no opinions, quickly following the four. Chapter 1276, Chapter 420, Recuperation in Fengyang Village, Ambush and Heavy Injuries, Hatred and Wrath, Part 2. The extreme cold environment of the Ice Abyss naturally doesn't lack water. But that water cannot be directly consumed. In a regular camp, slightly cleaner snow or ice is taken, first melted with high temperature, then filtered for impurities, and only then can it be directly consumed. Due to the extremely low temperature in the Ice Abyss, melting water is also exceedingly difficult. The heat from firewood is low, and the speed of melting water naturally can't compare to the higher heat from coal stone. In the early days of Great Xia, this method was also used to obtain water, but with rapid development in recent years, the craftsman department has deepened research on water, having long discovered that the cleanliness of drinking water to a certain extent determines people's health and even longevity, so requirements for drinking water have become increasingly stringent. Currently, the normal water retrieval process in Great Xia is the same in the melting water phase, but the water filtering process is different. Regular camps use a sieve cloth to remove visible impurities in the water, allowing direct consumption thereafter. While removing visible impurities is only the first step in Great Xia's water filtration, the second step involves mixing powdered coal stone and water, allowing coal powder to absorb and sediment finer impurities, leading to the third step, where the water is refrozen using the cold light of day, resulting in a pure ice block that can be directly consumed after melting. Lin Kai is not part of the craftsman department, and he doesn't understand why Mu Dong would make the water retrieval procedures so complicated. But Mu Dong has publicly claimed that as long as this pure water source is consumed over the long term, the risk of illness will be greatly reduced, and longevity can be increased by at least 20%. Who wouldn't want to get sick less often and live a few more years? Ever since Mu Dong publicly announced this water retrieval method, almost all families in Great Xia with the means use this method to obtain water. Of course, that's in Great Xia. Outside, the requirements are not as high, but it doesn't mean one has to obtain water on their own on the spot. The water and supply resources for Lin Kai and the other 4 along the way were bought from village-level camps by spending money. So the suggestion from the attendant makes sense. Soon, the 5 of them saw from afar a small village appearing to the south. The village is nestled between 2 small mountains, and if size is not considered, it's somewhat similar to the twin Dragon Valley where Xia City is located. At this time it's late at night, supposedly the time for human activity, yet in front of them, this small village, population is extremely sparse. Lin Kai and his team called out a dozen times at the entrance, before 3 middle-aged men from the earth-digging realm tremblingly walked out, and after some negotiation, led them into the village. Soon, the 3 middle-aged men led them into the best house in the village. The leading middle-aged man instructed the other 2, who immediately went outside to bring 5 strings of beast meat and a bucket of purified water. The middle-aged man took the 2 items, first placing them on the table, then turning around and clasping his hands toward Lin Kai, saying, "Please forgive us, sir. The village suffered a catastrophe last year. Now there are only 400 people left. This small place doesn't have much good to offer, only this beast meat and purified water." "Leader Zhu, take the beast meat back. We only want some purified water and I won't take it for free." Thinking of Fengyang Village's miserable situation, Lin Kai frowned slightly and took out a small piece of silver from his pocket, handing it to the middle-aged man's hand. Leader Zhu, sensing at least over a pound of silver, was stunned for a moment, then quickly waved his hands and opened his mouth to decline. "Sir, it's just a little purified water, really not necessary, really." "All right, we won't stay here long as we're just passing through. You should go back and let us have some rest." This white-clothed young man before him with extraordinary demeanor clearly saw the village's tough situation and deliberately gave so much silver, and Leader Zhu couldn't help but be moved when he lifted his head to look at Lin Kai. "Thank you, sir." Zhu Fu takes his leave. After Zhu Fu and the other 2 left, Lin Kai found a spot by the window to sit and turned to look at the village's situation, shaking his head and sighing. Dragon Valley Town is basically ignoring the situation of these villages below. Knowing this earlier, it would have been better if the Lord had taken Peak Mountain as well, saving these people from living such hard lives. Peak Mountain was originally part of Jiangxia's territory, in between taken by Daju Temple. After Daju Temple's demise, Chui Mountain wanted to take it, but was blocked by Great Xia, and finally Xia Hong decided to allocate Peak Mountain to Dragon Valley Town. In the final battle of Basheng, Daju Temple, to resurrect the 5-headed mysterious face Maitreya, used the primordial soul pill to kill over 90% of the population in village-level camps within its territory, Fengyang Village being one of the villages around Peak Mountain Camp, naturally included in this. Peak Mountain is not far from Hongmen. As a Hongmen guardian, collecting information on surrounding villages is part of Lin Kai's duties, so not only Fengyang Village, he basically understands the situation of all the villages within Peak Mountain realm. The population suddenly reduced by 90%, and the top combat powers all perished. Villages like Fengyang Village, which were controlled by Daju Temple, now facing the difficult circumstances is imaginable. Jiangxia is slightly better, as they have suffered heavy losses in battles against Daju Temple. To fill the population of the town, Jiangxia has already moved the remaining population from all village-level camps within its territory to the town, so their recent resource pressure has become so heavy. Dragon Valley is different, after all. They didn't directly engage in combat with Daju Temple, so the losses in the town are not significant. There's no need to fill the population, hence the village-level camps within Peak Mountain and Longzhou areas are mostly neglected, and from the current situation, they probably won't even receive tributes. Chapter 1277, Chapter 420, Resting at Fengyang Village, Ambush and Heavy Injury, Hatred and Rage, Part 3. The Lord's focus is indeed on the entire 9 towns. Taking Bashing and Juke has already made the towns uneasy. Occupying more places would really make our great Xia the target of many. Li Longkai also understood the situation. He paused slightly and shook his head before continuing. These people wanting to save themselves actually isn't difficult. Just go to Hongmen. The Civil Affairs Department has already set up refugee centers in the city. Anyone who serves there for 2 years can obtain permanent residency in Hongmen effortlessly, and can later become a member of Great Xia as long as they don't break the law. Upon hearing this, Lin Kai immediately laughed. Li Longkai wasn't aware that the idea of the refugee centers was Lin Kai's. Director Ying Yi of the Civil Affairs Department established them based on his suggestion. I guess Brother Ying hasn't conveyed the news to this side yet. When we return, I'll have him speed it up. Great Xia taking these people away definitely won't work. They must run to Hongmen themselves for it to make sense. Even if Dragon Valley Town finds out, they can't say we've done anything wrong. Zhu Fu and his group all have earth-digging realm cultivation. It's said that, following the Bluestone Road for 40 kilometers to Hongmen isn't too difficult. Clearly, they don't know about the Hongmen Refugee Center yet. Mention it to them when we leave. Among these 400 people, there are only 20 or so earth-digging realm cultivators. Even hunting is difficult now. They might maintain basic sustenance, but with a slight challenge, they'd face certain doom. After speaking, Lin Kai unintentionally glanced at the nearby attendant and secretly signaled Li Longkai with his eyes. Li Longkai immediately understood and turned to the attendant who had proposed resting in Fengyang Village. Smiling, he said, "Cheng Ping, I remember you were originally from Beehive, absorbed into Xia City by Great Xia in its 2nd year, right?" When suddenly called out by Li Longkai, the man's pupils showed panic momentarily, but he quickly regained composure and nodded in response. A subordinate of no consequence, unexpected that Lord Li remembers it so clearly. Li Longkai laughed and shook his head. "You're not insignificant. I heard that when the Lord, using the alias Hong Yu, infiltrated Beehive, you took a liking to his saber and almost acted. Is that true?" Upon hearing Li Longkai recall this incident, Cheng Ping's expression froze. Remembering that absurd event 7 years ago, he initially showed a bitter smile, then bowed to Li Longkai, saying, "Cheng Ping is fearful, didn't expect even that incident to be known by the Lord." He paused before continuing with gratitude. Fortunately, the Lord was generous and didn't hold it against Cheng Ping. With Beehive later merging into Great Xia, this subordinate made some contributions. Thanks to those contributions, I not only settled in Xia City but my cultivation also soared, breaking through the cold resistance level early. Now, I'm part of the Hongmen Supply Department, serving under Lord Li. Every time I think of these, Cheng Ping feels immense gratitude toward the Lord, wishing the Lord eternal glory and Great Xia eternal glory. Seemingly triggered by Li Longkai's reminiscence, Cheng Ping suddenly recalled much. By his last sentence, sincere emotion showed, his voice slightly choked. Li Longkai nodded. When discussing gratitude toward Lord Xia Hong, most people's reactions in Xia City matched Cheng Ping's, so he found no surprise in them. You don't have the battle body talent. If not part of Great Xia, not to mention today's level 14 strength, breaking through to cold resistance level would be doubtful. Li Longkai paused again and asked, "About last month's case where your eldest son Cheng Yang was killed. Prison department hasn't found a conclusion yet. You still feel some resentment, right?" Upon this question, Cheng Ping's expression stiffened, almost instinctively glancing at Lin Kai. But he quickly realized his inappropriate action and lowered his head, replying in a deep voice, "The subordinate firmly believes that the prison department will uncover the truth thoroughly." Li Longkai sighed slightly, shaking his head. "Cheng Ping, your son accidentally collided with Lord Lin in South City. You wouldn't suspect Lord Lin killed your son, would you?" The subordinate wouldn't dare. Hearing these words, Cheng Ping showed extreme fear, bowing immediately before Lin Kai. Seeing this reaction, Li Longkai shook his head repeatedly. Lin Kai placed his sword on Cheng Ping's knee, preventing him from kneeling. "If you don't suspect me, then don't kneel." Cheng Ping was stuck there, helpless, and slowly stood. He prepared to speak but was interrupted by a knock on the door. "Knock, knock, knock." "Sirs, my leader says you're weary from your travels and has prepared some fruits and cooked food. commanded us to deliver it for your enjoyment. Lord Lin just gave extra silver coins. Looks like Leader Zhu is quite a hospitable person. Indeed hospitable. Hearing Li Longkai's words, Lin Kai first smiled and nodded in response, then turned to the doorway and said, "Come in. Coincidentally, I'm a bit hungry." Squeaka. The wooden door was pushed open from outside. It was nighttime. Two middle-aged men in ordinary cotton clothes slowly entered. The one on the left carried a string of freshly roasted beast meat, while the one on the right held a wooden tray filled with cleaned fruits. Once they entered, the room was immediately filled with aroma. Lin Kai and Li Longkai couldn't help but sniff, as their appetites seemed to be stirred. "Your leader is sensible. Put it over here on the table." Lin Kai smiled and waved to signal them to bring it in. Chapter 1278, Chapter 420, Recuperation in Fengyang Village, Ambush and Grave Injuries, Hatred and Fury Part 4. Those two men only have earth-digging realm cultivation. When they walked in, their expressions were noticeably a bit anxious, standing at the door without daring to move. It was only after Lin Kai gave the nod that they slowly started to make their way toward the table. The man on the left seemed to be more talkative. When he was still 5 or 6 meters away from the table, he began to introduce them to Lin Kai and the others with a smile. "Sir, this beast meat isn't anything valuable, just something to stave off your hunger. But these melons and fruits, they're special from our Fengyang village." Swish. Unfortunately, the man's words were interrupted halfway. When he was about 2 meters away from the table, Lin Kai suddenly drew the Qianwu sword from the table. Simultaneously, 3 blood-red holy patterns quietly appeared at his brow. A flash of silver sword edge, swift as lightning, abruptly stabbed toward the man before him. Lin Kai's strength, how terrifying. His sudden attack left no one in the room able to react. Except for Li Longkai. He almost moved in sync with Lin Kai, but his strength was slightly inferior. So when Lin Kai swung his sword edge, his knife was just unsheathed, and its sword edge, a step slower, suddenly slashed at the man carrying the wooden tray ahead of him. Their moves indeed varied in speed, but it was certain that their target, the 2 middle-aged men carrying beast meat and fruits, were completely unresponsive. The sword light and knife flash appeared simultaneously, and the expressions on the faces of those 2 middle-aged men instantly showed shock and panic, clearly having no prior preparation for Lin Kai and Li Longkai's sudden attack. But it must be said, their reaction speed was terrifying. The shock and panic on their faces lasted for less than a moment, before quickly transforming into sharpness and ferocity. The man on the left immediately released the beast meat and raised a hidden long knife from behind it, holding it up to guard against his face. The man on the right suddenly raised his hand. A silver long sword slashed the wooden tray into 2 pieces, then horizontally sliced the sword edge to collide fiercely with Li Longkai's blade flash. Clang. Dongning. Chen Yiking used his longsword to block Li Longkai's blade edge, his body instantly flying backward 2 or 3 meters. The seriousness and horror on his face hadn't yet faded when he realized something, suddenly turning his head to look to the left. Upon seeing Chu Dongning's situation, his eyes cracked with anger, letting out a furious roar. He managed to block Li Longkai's blade flash, but the other side, Chu Dongning didn't have as good luck. Chu Dongning's original intention was to use the blade surface to block Lin Kai's direct sword edge. Evidently, he was very confident in his strength, having enough faith to see through Lin Kai's stabbing sword edge. This confidence cost him dearly. Lin Kai's power and speed with his sword far exceeded Chu Dongning's expectations. Not to mention blocking the sword edge with the blade surface, his long knife hadn't even fully raised when Lin Kai's Qianwu sword already pierced through from the left side of his chest, penetrating the heart area. Chu Dongning looked down at Lin Kai in front of him, his face full of shock, realizing that his life force within was rapidly disappearing. He suddenly gathered his last bit of strength and shouted, 54 Zong, run, quickly. Damn, you 2 mice, can you really escape? Lin Kai withdrew his longsword without a hint of hesitation, slicing horizontally across Chu Dongning's neck. His body surged forward, charging straight at the other man. Dongning. Heart penetrated, neck slashed open. Chen Yiking gave a mournful cry. Knowing his good brother was beyond salvation, even though his heart was filled with hateful annoyance, he fiercely pushed Li Longkai aside, breaking through the building, fleeing toward the outside. Zong, Chu Dongning's last shout was clearly a warning about Lin Kai's true strength, urging him to run. How could he not hear it? 54 zong, how could it be 54 zong? I examined so many times. He had revealed his power before, clearly only 35 zong, clearly only 35 zong. As Chen Yiking fled, he internally screamed. Although not blood-related, his relationship with Chu Dongning was closer than that of real brothers over the 30 years of knowing each other. His mistaken judgment led to Chu Dongning's death. The regret and rage raging inside him for the mistake were unimaginable. Hidden for half a year, finally managed to drag this mouse out. But now was clearly not the time for his anger and regret. As Lin Kai's voice rang out, a sword light abruptly struck from behind. Knowing there was no escape, a fierce gleam flashed in Chen Yiking's eyes. He turned with his sword to slash at the incoming sword edge. Clang! The sword edges clashed. Chen Yiking's hand shook violently, seeing Lin Kai in front of him, his face finally showing a concentrated horror. Chu Dongning wasn't wrong, no, he actually understated it. Lin Kai's strength was at least 55 zong. Overwhelmingly strong compared to him. How could it be? Swish! Lin Kai clearly saw the horror on Chen Yiking's face, but his heart was filled only with rage, not bothering with it. The longsword abruptly flipped, pointing out a dozen sword lights consecutively aimed at Chen Yiking's vital points. The deaths of 3 towns' Chamber of Commerce people had a mastermind behind it, confirmed since early last October. But in order not to alert the snake, Great Xia and 8 towns had agreed not to disclose the news, enticing the perpetrator to make another move. Subsequent events went as Great Xia expected. From last October to this February, over 100 people in 8 towns suffered at the perpetrator's hands, with the culprit always leaving a companion alive, then using memory alteration techniques to pin the blame on Great Xia. Chapter 1279, Chapter 420, Resting at Fengyang Village, the ambush and grave injuries, hatred and wrath /5. The 8 towns are actually feeling the pressure and are preparing to make it public. Their thought is simple. Once the case is publicized, the culprit will know that his framing is useless, and naturally, he will stop killing. But Lin Kai is naturally unwilling. Once it's public, the perpetrator will either run away immediately or stop altogether, leaving Lin Kai with no chance to catch him. If it were only people from the 8 towns being killed, Lin Kai wouldn't have said anything. Since the 8 towns are not seeking revenge, he naturally doesn't mind either. But the problem is, this January, the perpetrator started targeting people from Great Xia. A total of 5 people were killed, using identical methods as before, leaving survivors behind, then altering the eyewitnesses' memories to make them think the real killer was from the 8 towns. Chengping was the last victim. In the previous 4 instances, Lin Kai directly sent people to notify Su Ning from Bashing, asking Su Ning to come and undo the altered memories of those 4 people. Until Chengping's eldest son Cheng Yang was killed, and when Chengping returned, he could only vaguely say he didn't know who the killer was. Coincidentally, 3 days before Cheng Yang was killed, he had once collided with Lin Kai in South City. Considering Chengping's position in the camp supply department and his relation as Li Longkai's subordinate, who occasionally interacted with Lin Kai instantly realized that the perpetrator planned to target him next. Thus, this time he did not call Su Ning but let Chengping continue on his path, having already discussed with Li Longkai to keep an eye on Chengping, while everything else continued as normal, pretending to be unaware. He had previously pretended to leave the city 3 times, the first time alone, and the latter 2 with a subordinate, without luring out the killer. Only then did he realize the perpetrator's level of caution far exceeded normal people. This trip to Mayan Town was to discuss the martial arts competition planned for June among the 3 towns. Although only Li Longkai needed to go, Lin Kai sharply sensed that this was an excellent opportunity, so he proposed to accompany not just Li Longkai, but also purposely let Li Longkai bring Chengping, and even inadvertently revealed their route to Chengping in advance. Actually, they're less than 40 kilometers from Hongmen now. Lin Kai had almost given up, thinking the perpetrator won't act this time either, leading to an impromptu route change away from Fengyang Village to rest in a random place. Unexpectedly, Chengping actively proposed visiting Fengyang Village. Immediately, he and Li Longkai realized that the perpetrator intended to act in Fengyang Village. With these major premises, coupled with the fact they had just mentioned not wanting any beast meat, shortly after Zhu Fu left, 2 strangers suddenly came in and delivered fruits and cooked meat. Even though Lin Kai saw 2 people with merely earth-digging realm cultivation, Adhering to the principle of preferring to kill by mistake rather than miss, he had to act. Fortunately, he did not make a mistake. Thinking of the tremendous impact this person had caused Hongmen over the past half-year, and the killings framing Great Xia everywhere, Lin Kai's anger continued to rise, making his gestures increasingly fierce. Clang! Unfortunately, the person before him was evidently stronger than he imagined. His basic strength was only 35 strands, but with the addition of holy pattern and martial arts skills, his maximum strength could exceed 55 strands. Even so, the person before him could still evenly match him. The longsword was once again knocked away by the opponent. Lin Kai glanced behind him and saw Li Longkai only 10 meters away. A look of delight flashed across his face as the Qianwu sword abruptly produced several sword flowers, tightly entangling the opponent, preventing their escape. "Want to keep me here? Your strength is far from enough." Chen Yiking could clearly see Lin Kai's intentions. Though he longed to kill Lin Kai, he knew well that once Li Longkai arrived, the two of them working together would lead to Chen Yiking, if not killed, to be severely harmed. So he suddenly looked into Lin Kai's eyes, and then his pupils emitted two slender black needles, flying straight towards Lin Kai's pupils. Hiss! However, facing the black needle ambush, Lin Kai was already prepared. His left hand swiftly reached into his bosom and retrieved a segment of yellow candle. The wick of the yellow candle had evidently undergone special treatment, and as Lin Kai swiftly pulled it out, it ignited spontaneously in midair. As the yellow candle flared up, the firelight instantly enveloped the surroundings, causing the two black needles emitted from Chen Yiking's pupils to instantly turn to black smoke and dissipate. "What is this?" Thud! Chen Yiking was evidently startled by the yellow candle and suddenly lost focus. Seizing this brief lapse, Lin Kai unwaveringly lifted the Qianwu sword, slicing fiercely towards Chen Yiking's neck, just as he had with Chu Dongning moments before. But at the critical moment, Chen Yiking still exploded with extraordinary reaction speed. Realizing it was too late to either raise his sword or retreat, he could only choose to sidestep, avoiding his next vital. The vital was avoided, but the sword blade still struck his right arm. Regardless of whether it's skin membrane, flesh, or blood, the strength of cold resistance level exceeds normal standards, and being directly broken open like this, blood splattered instantly, spraying out 2 to 3 meters. Chen Yiking immediately let out a muffled groan, not turning back, and directly hugged his arm, frantically fleeing westward. "Run, do you think you can still escape?" Lin Kai let out a sinister smile, feeling the tip of his sword had already touched the opponent's bone. Such an injury couldn't be recovered in a short time. The opponent's speed was significantly reduced, and Lin Kai was completely uninjured, so escaping from him seemed impossible. "Brother Li, first hurry back to Hongmen and inform Commander Liu. Have him bring the reconnaissance camp out of the city to aid me, and I'll drive this rat toward Hongmen in the west. I don't believe I can't catch him." "As you command, sir." Li Longkai, arriving late, immediately recognized that the man was seriously injured upon seeing the blood on the ground. Seeing Lin Kai already chasing west, understanding the urgency, he instructed his other two followers to take Cheng Ping and the corpse back, and he hastened towards Hongmen. Lin Kai was pursuing the man. He needed to return to Hongmen first to inform Liu Yuan. "Trouble, my right arm is severely injured. Getting caught by him means certain death." In the snow forest on the west side of Peak Mountain, sensing the breath behind him growing closer, Chen Yiking's face turned pale, glancing at his right arm wound with increasingly somber expression. The right arm was his sword-wielding arm, the skin, flesh, and bone entirely injured, draining at least 50% of his strength. How could he fight Lin Kai now? Damn it, these outsiders dare to kill Dongning and force me into this situation. Scum, Xia scum. Chen Yiking's pupils were bloodshot. He turned to look at Lin Kai just over 100 meters behind him, his face filled with unwillingness and hatred, lacking only fear. "You love chasing, so chase all you want, you mongrel." Suddenly, he pulled out a straw doll from his bosom, stained it with blood from his wounded right arm, then produced a painting, scanning ahead until he found a sufficiently sturdy tree, immediately redirecting his path towards it. "Still daring to change your path?" Behind, Lin Kai's brows furrowed as he charged quickly towards the tree. But just before reaching the tree, the man leaped away, continuing to flee west. Lin Kai's expression darkened slightly, yet noting the reduced distance with the opponent by over 20 meters, He merely snorted coldly and accelerated his pursuit. The East District number 492 residence, an empty quiet room. The snowy landscape painting on the wall unexpectedly stirred without wind. A bloody arm suddenly stretched out from the painting, followed by Chen Yiking's chaotic breath as he tumbled out from it, directly collapsing onto the floor. Thud! He spat a mouthful of blood, swiftly rose, took a Dan medicine, and quickly wrapped his arm wound with cloth, then abruptly raised his head. His blood-red pupils burned with resentment, and his face was chillingly sinister. Toying with me, killing Dongning. No wonder it hasn't worked over the past half-year. So that's it, well done Lin Kai, well done great Xia. Chapter 1280, Chapter 421. The 9th year of Great Xia, February 19th. The sky had just lit up, and the fluttering snowflakes were growing more intense. The bitter cold wind was likewise intensifying, ravaging the land at a dramatically rapid pace. Accompanying the rising sun and increasingly blazing sunlight, it not only failed to bring any warmth to the ground, but instead added more chilling coldness to the already bone-piercing air. The entire city of Hongmen had largely fallen into silence, with only the ministry building and the city gates showing signs of light. 4th floor of the ministry building, at the morgue of the prison department. Greetings to Lord Guardian. Lin Kai just returned from outside the city, hadn't had time to change his tattered white robes, and his headdress was slightly disheveled. His left hand tightly gripped a grass-stuffed doll, and with a surprisingly somber expression, he asked the guard in a deep voice, "Is Lord Li here?" Lord Li, Lord Zhao, and Lord Tong are all present. Upon hearing that they were both present, Lin Kai immediately pushed the door open and entered. Greetings, Guardian Lin. Inside the morgue, Li Longkai, Zhao Bao, and Vice Chief of Punishment Tong Xingsheng were gathered around a corpse. Upon seeing Lin Kai enter, they immediately bowed and greeted him. No need for formalities. The three of them raised their heads, and Li Longkai, seeing Lin Kai's somber expression, quickly guessed something and asked in a low voice, "Sir, couldn't catch up to that person." Lin Kai shook his head, first handing the grass-stuffed man in his hand to Zhao Bao, and then said in a deep voice, "Liu Yuan and I were both tricked by this grass-stuffed man." He had pursued all the way from Fengyang village in the Peak Mountain realm, intentionally driving the target toward Hongmen. Though there were some twists along the way, ultimately, just east of Hongmen, about 10 miles out, he successfully cornered the person alongside Liu Yuan and the elite scouts coming from the city. But just as he and Liu Yuan were ready to slay the target, the person who had been running under his nose for so long suddenly turned into a grass-stuffed man. After hearing Lin Kai's explanation, both Li Longkai and Tong Xingsheng shifted their gaze to the grass-stuffed man in Zhao Bao's hand, their brows filled with apprehension. Zhao Bao then, holding the grass-stuffed man, furrowed his brows and said, "After all, someone from Chenkang, indeed there are some skills." Upon hearing this, Lin Kai was first stunned but quickly reacted. With a look of joy he asked, "Has the identity of the deceased been confirmed?" This time, there were two individuals intercepting him. He had killed one in advance at Fengyang village and had Li Longkai send the corpse back first. Without identifying the deceased's identity, how could Zhao Bao be so sure both individuals came from Chenkang? Sure enough, Zhao Bao immediately nodded and said, "As soon as the body arrived, I let 5 vice chiefs of punishment come to check. This person had a thin paper-like mask on his face. Upon revealing the true face beneath, both Xiang Liang and Bai Shanning immediately recognized it. Xiang Liang and Bai Shanning were just transferred to Hongmen last month as Vice Chief of Punishment. Just last October, they, along with Hu Ming, participated in the North 5th District mission to capture Chu Yanner and 7 others. Although that mission failed to successfully capture Chu Yanner and the others, Minister Xia Chuan later expelled them in force, informing Hu Ming of the identities of Chu Yanner and the Chen Kang Little Princess, and her unique painting skills, among other specifics. The 23 Silver Order prison wardens who participated in the capture in the North 5th District that day later learned through Hu Ming about these details. Obviously, putting these aside, Xiang Liang and Bai Shanning had actually already had an encounter with Chu Yanner and the others while escorting Mu Long back to Xia City last September, passing through Qinghepu Station. The one leading them back then was Chu Dongning. According to Xiang Liang and Bai Shanning, this person is called Chu Dongning, who last September led a group of 6 from Hongmen, heading north of Xing River to Xia City under the guise of a visit, living in the North 5th District for over half a month. Later, Chu Yanner sneaked into the inner city, where they were caught by the Lord and Minister. I know about this. I heard Director Yuan mention it earlier this year. Lin Kai directly interrupted Zhao Bao. He had even reviewed the travel records and found that the document for Chu Dongning's group of 7 was signed off by himself, leaving him fearful. Fortunately, this group didn't cause major chaos in Xia City. Otherwise, he would have had to bear significant responsibility. Not to mention, among the 28 children nearly harmed at Yuan Mansion back then were his 3 sons Lin Shu, Lin Lai, and Lin Meng. If not for being detected by the Lord in time, Lin Kai would indeed be a father who harmed his own sons. Since then, when issuing travel documents, he has become much more cautious. Thinking about all this, Lin Kai still showed a fearful expression, walked to the table, and uncovered the thin mask on Chu Dongning's face, saying in a heavy voice, "Paper mask, in this case, the appearance of the other person is also likely fake. It's hard to catch him after he got away this time." Lin Kai paused, then suddenly thought of something and raised his head. Right, last year there were a total of 7 in Chu Dongning's group. Could the one who got away be one of the other 6? Zhao Bao immediately clasped his hands and said, "Rest assured, sir, I've already sent Xiang Liang and Bai Shanning to find the painter from the artisan department. With their collaboration, it's not hard to restore the appearances of the other 5. Additionally, I've sent someone back to Xia City. The prison headquarters there should have a true portrait of the Chen Kang little princess. We can first secretly verify around the city if we can't find. Then let's directly disclose it to the public. Let these 6 become infamous in the 9 towns." Lin Kai followed up Zhao Bao's words, his face full of anger, and continued, "Isn't fond of stirring trouble secretly. Then let them have to wear masks while moving in the 9 towns territory from now on." Chapter 1281, Chapter 421. At this point, Lin Kai paused slightly. As if he recalled something, a glint of mystery flashed in his eyes, and he scoffed. "Right, make sure to explicitly state that all 6 of Chu Yanner's group came from Kai Q feudal town." Zhao Bao and the 2 others were taken aback upon hearing this. The person who had just escaped from Lin Kai's grasp was the same one who had been secretly stirring up trouble among the 9 towns over the past 6 months. Through Chu Dongning's corpse, it could actually be confirmed that this person was undoubtedly from Chen Kang. Knowing well that he was from Chen Kang, why make a point of saying they came from Kai Q? The 3 weren't fools. They pondered for a moment, considering the recent situation where Great Xia had been deliberately spreading information about outer domain forces, and they quickly understood, their expressions turning peculiar. "Oh sir, besides a sword, we found quite a few things on Chu Dongning, the most peculiar being this piece of jade." Tong Xingsheng, who was initially responsible for dissecting cold beasts in the camp supply department, later joined the prison department. He was among the first batch to be promoted to the Silver Order level as a prison warden. Now with a strength of 21 toughs, he was transferred to Hongmen last year to serve as Vice Chief of Punishment. He excelled at dissecting corpses and identifying wounds, so naturally, Chu Dongning's corpse was entrusted to him. As he spoke, he took out a fiery red jade from his belongings, evidently retrieved from Chu Dongning. "This jade, although fiery red, feels very much like silver, and I also discovered." Seemingly realizing mere words wouldn't suffice, Tong Xingsheng took out a small piece of solidified fire oil from his belongings and placed it on the fiery red jade. An incredible scene unfolded. The solidified fire oil, upon contact with the fiery red jade, was rapidly absorbed, and after absorbing the oil, the jade's color became increasingly vivid, visibly so. Upon seeing this, Lin Kai's pupils instantly dilated. What is solidified fire oil? It was brought forth by the Lord himself, an unparalleled weapon against deceitful monsters, far more potent than silver, and this fiery red jade could actually absorb it. Tong Xingsheng was equally excited, declaring, "Sir, if I'm not mistaken, this jade should be related to solidified fire oil, considering Chu Dongning's feudal town origins. It's likely an item used against deceitful monsters in feudal towns, but its specific function can only be determined after experimentation." Lin Kai directly grabbed the jade with his hands, examined it for a moment, then turned to Zhao Bao, asking, "Aren't there a few deceitful monsters in the city right now? Has your prison department uncovered anything during this period?" On hearing this, Zhao Bao's face instantly showed awkwardness and he bowed, saying, "Subordinate is ashamed. Those deceitful monsters kill totally at random, with no sense of logic, each more concealed than the last. Beyond increasing patrols, we have no other means." Lin Kai frowned deeply upon hearing this, questioning sternly. For over 4 months, I've brought at least 60,000 small torches, more than 10,000 pieces of solidified fire oil, and over 2,000 yellow candles from Xia City. With so many materials to counter the deceitful monsters, and your prison department can't even capture a single one. Detecting the reprimand in Lin Kai's tone, Zhao Bao's expression turned even more uneasy. He helplessly bowed, saying, "Forgive me, sir. Judging by South City's current situation, those deceitful monsters have likely figured out the pattern of the small torches and are completely unfazed. Yellow candles are effective, but their limited number means they cannot be lit citywide. As for solidified fire oil, its use requires finding the true form of these deceitful monsters. We haven't even seen what those three creatures look like." After listening to Zhao Bao, Lin Kai's expression dampened significantly. The defender falls under the governance department. Nominally, he governs Hongmen, but in reality, he is on equal footing with the heads of the other 7 departments. The issue of deceitful monsters in the city is technically under the domain of the prison department. His primary duty as a defender is overseeing Hongmen's overall defense and coordinating affairs within the 8 departments. Furthermore, because Hongmen is Great Xia's port, he also manages several matters concerning the 8 towns, like rooting out spies from outer domain feudal towns, accelerating the integration of the 3 towns, and forming a 9-towns alliance alongside Su Ning and Yu Wendao. Owing to these manifold responsibilities, he had only minimally paid attention to the city's deceitful monsters during these past months, despite Zhao Bao reaching out to him multiple times. He merely sent messages back to Xia City to have the camp supply department allocate materials to curb the monsters. Given Zhao Bao's current stance, it seems the prison department has no effective measures against these monsters. Ignoring the situation any longer is not an option. Notify the other 5 commanding officers to meet me at once in the grand hall at the top tier. With that single command, Lin Kai turned and left the morgue. Observing Lin Kai's severe tone, Zhao Bao's face visibly puckered. Standing beside him, Li Longkai laughed lightly, patting him reassuredly. "Don't worry, old Zhao, the one from Chen Kang just escaped from Lord Lin, surely making him irritable. It's no surprise he got agitated hearing about the deceitful monsters. Let's go up and discuss possible solutions." Zhao Bao's expression relieved a bit, yet after mulling it over he sighed gently, shaking his head. Incompetent is incompetent. Zhao Bao isn't one to argue stubbornly. But this Hongmen is paramount. If the Lord's plan fails due to the prison department's negligence, I'd bear unpardonable guilt. With a final sigh, he departed the morgue alongside Li Longkai. Chapter 1282, Chapter 421. The Ministry Building top floor. Lin Kai had already taken the main seat, and as Zhao and Li conveyed his orders, Civil Affairs Director Ying Yi, Hunting Bureau Mountain Yu Yuan Shan, Logging Department Medicine Lord Chen Hua, Artisan Department Craftsman Kang Zhu, and Cloud Dragon Army Commander and Hongmen Military Department Commander Liu Yuan quickly arrived. The 7 chief officers, along with Guardian Lin Kai of the Garrison Department, formed the core management team of Hongmen City. "Everyone please sit." Having served as Hongmen Guardian for more than half a year, and with his strength growing stronger, Lin Kai had developed some aura of authority. Seeing the 7 people gathered, he wasted no words and gestured for them to be seated before directly asking, "Director Ying, what is the population situation in the city?" Ying Yi's expression was somewhat heavy as he said, "Reporting to the Lord, it's not very optimistic. At the beginning of the year, the total population in the city was already close to 300,000. Today is February 19th, and the current total population is just over 320,000. Nearly 2 months, yet only an increase of 20,000. Not only Lin Kai, but the other people also frowned heavily upon hearing this. An increase of 20,000 sounds good. But what is Hongmen City? It's arguably the busiest place in the Mo Southern Slope right now, except for the 8 towns. Before Hongmen opened in July last year, only people from Great Xia were in the city, including the station troops. The total population was just over 30,000. But with the construction of Treasure Tower and Great Xia's official opening announcement, Hongmen's population skyrocketed almost every month. Before the Hongmen battle on September 18th last year, the city's total population was already close to 150,000. The Hongmen battle, Xia Hong defeated the number 1 of 9 towns Yangzhun, pressuring 6 towns, and thoroughly established Great Xia's dominance over Mo Southern Slope. As these news spread across 8 towns, the popularity of Hongmen soared to new heights. In the following 3 months, people came to Hongmen endlessly. In just 3 months, by the beginning of the year, the city's total population was close to 300,000. That is to say, it increased by 50,000 each month. But nearly 2 months have passed since the beginning of the year, and yet only an increase of 20,000, even considering the total population of 8 towns. The population growth rate shouldn't slow down abruptly like this. The reason? This. Upon hearing Lin Kai's question, Ying Yi instinctively glanced at Zhao Bao. Speak frankly, the development of Hongmen affects the Lord's plans. If there's a problem, even if the Lord doesn't address it, the minister will certainly inquire. What are you worried about, even fearing the minister's blame? Hearing this, Ying Yi immediately regained his composure and saluted, saying, the main issue is the decrease in mobile population. In these past 2 months, deceitful monsters are rampant in the city with consecutive murders, and the news has gradually spread. People are saying Hongmen is not safe, and many are unwilling to stay here. Among these, some willing to join Great Xia obtained a road permit and immediately headed to Xia City. Others finished their dealings and left, unwilling to linger. A very few have even sold their properties and fled after settling in the city. At this moment, the 6 people present all focused their gaze on Zhao Bao. Feeling their gaze, Zhao Bao was extremely uneasy, intending to open his mouth to express regret, but before he could, Lin Kai spoke first. How is the income from the Hongmen supply department recently? Li Longkai had just returned from Mayan, but before coming to the main hall, he had visited the supply department once, so upon hearing the question, he immediately saluted and replied. In the last 2 months of last year, the supply department's monthly income was 12.59 million taels and 16.42 million taels respectively. In January this year, the income was 17.21 million taels, and this month is not over yet, but the estimated income is about 17.92 million taels. No surprise. After hearing this, Lin Kai shook his head, showing no sign of surprise. In July last year, Great Xia opened targeting all individuals from 8 towns, while mass transactions with the 8 townships were still adhering to previous rules, concentrated in September and October each year. This couldn't be helped. The unequal transactions with 8 towns were essentially plunder. Great Xia would like to plunder all silver from 8 towns, but the production capacity is far from sufficient for this. Especially with the recent population surge, resources are gradually becoming tight, so it's impossible to endlessly supply outward. Such large transactions lasting 2 months each year is quite good, wanting it to last throughout the year is impossible. Therefore, excluding the mass trade in September and October, the normal income of Hongmen's supply department relies on daily trade, which all depends on people to complete. Slower population growth naturally leads to slower income growth. How about the logging department and hunting bureau? Recently, the outskirts aren't peaceful either. After the new year, the logging department has had a total of 17 people murdered outside the city. The prison department has investigated. 3 are missing with suspended cases. 5 confirmed killed by humans. 3 killers caught and executed. 2 are under investigation. The remaining 9 victims were all linked to deceitful monsters. My hunting bureau faced even more casualties. A total of 21 people murdered since the new year. Classic prison department investigations show 6 missing with suspended cases. 9 confirmed killed by humans, 7 killers caught, 2 are under investigation. The remaining 6 victims are linked to deceitful monsters. After hearing responses from Yuan Shan and Chen Hua, Lin Kai's originally tense face slightly relaxed. From the case-solving perspective, the prison department has actually done considerable work, only dealing with these deceitful monsters. They are indeed helpless. Chapter 1283, Chapter 421. Lord Lin, the brothers in the Cloud Dragon army, have some complaints recently. Upon hearing Liu Yuan speak up, Lin Kai immediately turned to look at him. What's going on? Liu Yuan cupped his hands with a bitter smile. To be honest, it's still the fault of those deceitful monsters. When we first opened up in July last year, my Cloud Dragon army only needed to send 1 camp of brothers to patrol South City every day. As the monsters caused increasing trouble, it was increased to 2 camps, then 3, and now 5 camps. 5 camps. Upon hearing about sending 5 camps to patrol South City every day, Lin Kai's face instantly turned dark. Patrolling is relatively leisurely, but it also takes a lot of time, and once there is a patrol duty, it means a sleepless night. Even if the soldiers of the Cloud Dragon Army have cold resistance level cultivation, over time it's unbearable. The Cloud Dragon Army has a total of 10 camps, sending 5 camps to patrol South City daily, which essentially means 2 groups taking turns without rest. Furthermore, soldiers are meant for combat. The Cloud Dragon Army came to Hongmen for garrison duty. Maintaining security is not really their responsibility. It's quite remarkable that the soldiers haven't started cursing by now. Commander Liu, rest assured, I will immediately send someone to Bashing to find Director Yuan Sijeng and have him deploy a large army to Hongmen for assistance. Lin Kai immediately provided a solution, then said in a serious tone, "Those deceitful monsters must be dealt with, otherwise the impact will only grow larger. Chief of Punishment Zhao." "I am here." Zhao Bao, who was feeling anxious internally for a while, instantly stood up when he was named. Maintaining city security is the responsibility of your prison department. The current situation has escalated to this extent, and you cannot escape blame. However, considering that these monsters are indeed difficult to handle, and it's indeed beyond your ability, I will temporarily not hold you accountable. But for the next few months, your prison department must follow my command. I will find a way to handle these deceitful monsters. Do you have any objections? Upon hearing Lin Kai's words, the crowd's expressions flickered lightly. Though Lord Guardian is nominally the chief of one area, technically speaking, he is merely an inferior officer of the garrison department, supposedly on the same level as these 7 people. Zhao Bao referring to himself as a subordinate was actually somewhat inappropriate. Lin Kai's proposal for the prison department to take his orders for the next few months, while aimed at addressing the monster issue, also hinted at a power grab. Obviously, Zhao Bao understood this. Despite feeling uncomfortable about it, he had to nod and say, "As long as we can eliminate those deceitful monsters, the prison department is willing to follow your orders." "That's good, My lord, Vice Chief of Punishment Xiang Liang from the prison department has an urgent report." Just as Lin Kai was about to continue speaking, he was interrupted by a voice from outside the hall. He frowned slightly but said, "Come in." Xiang Liang hurriedly walked in from the outside, aware of the ongoing discussion in the hall, instantly bowed to Lin Kai and said urgently, "My lord, the silver vault has been robbed again." Bam! Lin Kai and the 7 others inside the hall instantly jumped up from their seats in shock and anger. "Lord Lin, lords, I'll go check first." In charge of the silver vault, Camp Supply and Military Equipment Director Li Longkai was so anxious that he didn't even pause to ask questions, cupped his hands to bid farewell to everyone, and hurriedly ran out. "Robbed again? Didn't I instruct to light 10 yellow candles daily in the silver vault to fend off that cat demon? How did this happen again?" Upon hearing Lin Kai's furious tone, Xiang Liang quickly cupped his hands and said, "I just came from there myself and still don't know the specifics. Everyone follow me to check." Lin Kai, unable to get any answers, directly got up and stood, and without needing to speak further, the other 6 people, along with Xiang Liang, immediately followed behind him. The 8 of them jumped straight off the top floor and sped toward the North City Silver Vault. Hongmen's trade volume is large, earning 15 to 16 million taels of silver every month, averaging at least 500 to 600,000 taels daily. This is just the profit. The Hongmen Supply Department also has to handle purchasing and acquisition, so it's impossible to send all the earned silver back to Xia City. A portion must be kept in the city for circulation. The opening has been more than half a year. The supply department roughly figured out that, to maintain normal operations at Treasure Tower and all shops in South City, at least 5 million taels of silver must be retained in the city for circulation. Of course, this is only theoretical retention of 5 million taels. Firstly, due to Hongmen's substantial trade volume and daily earnings, they can't send back the money immediately after each transaction, as that would waste manpower and resources. Secondly, silver is precious and easily targeted, hence frequent large-scale deliveries may cause issues, so the specific delivery time varies, sometimes 10 days, sometimes half a month. And if the Cloud Dragon Army is occupied, the silver piles up for 2 or 3 months without delivery as well. This causes the amount of silver stocked at Hongmen to fluctuate anytime. Except for those few days when just sent off a batch, the stock usually exceeds 5 million. Most of the time it's at least over 10 million taels, occasionally reaching 20 to 30 million. During September and October each year, when When trading with the 8 towns, the stock can even reach billions. Such a large amount of silver surely can't be stored just anywhere. Speaking of the safest place in Hongmen City, it's undoubtedly the barracks area occupied by the Cloud Dragon Army, even safer than the Ministry building. So naturally, the Hongmen Silver Vault is situated here. At the core of the barracks area, a 50-meter-wide black iron warehouse made entirely of 1,000 forged cast iron, surrounded by hundreds of Cloud Dragon Army soldiers. As Lin Kai and the 8 others approached, the soldiers immediately bowed in salute. "Greetings, Lord Guardian. Greetings, lords. Greetings, lords. Greetings, Lord Guardian." Lin Kai didn't bother with the crowd, rather led the 7 of them quickly into the warehouse without a glance at the piles of silver before him, directly heading for Li Longkai. Li Longkai's face was ashen, staring at the corner on the north side of the warehouse, where a human head-sized hole lay, with scattered silver blocks and ingots beside it. Vice Military Preparation Yuan Ning of the camp's supply department was sweating profusely, clutching the ledger while leading over 20 people to count the missing silver. Lin Kai observed without interrupting, merely standing by the hole with a grim expression, waiting for results. My lord, it's been tallied." Soon, Yuan Ning finished counting and approached Lin Kai, Li Longkai, and others, saying bitterly, "Just like last time in December, another 3 million taels of silver have been lost." Bam! Lin Kai angrily slapped a nearby metal post, roaring, "Who was responsible for guarding the silver vault tonight?" Yuan Ning trembled with fear, swiftly lowering his head and saying, "It was me and Vice Commander Wang Yuan of the Cloud Dragon Army, alongside the Cloud Dragon Army's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd camps." Wang Yuan quickly approached, standing alongside Yuan Ning. "Weren't yellow candles lit? How could that cat demon still get in? What's happening?" Yuan Ning said bitterly, "At dawn, I calculated that the burning time of the yellow candles surrounding the silver vault was about to end. Thus I pre-lit another batch of yellow candles, thinking it would be safer. However, as I moved to the north side of the silver vault, I discovered a large hole under the vault wall. Realizing the hole was freshly made, and knowing that Cat Demon was still in the vault, I called Wang Yuan, Lord Wang, to help guard the hole." Wang Yuan took over, continuing, "The Cat Demon's speed was incredibly fast. As it darted from the hole, I only saw its silver eyes and rough outline, couldn't even discern its color before being swatted away." Both Wang Yuan and Yuan Ning then unbuttoned their jackets. Underneath their clothes, each had a black claw mark over 20 centimeters long, carved deep into their flesh right to the bone. Clearly, they had already applied solidified fire oil, and the wound continuously emitted a chilling black vapor, looking truly horrifying. "Vile creature, what a wretched beast, truly treating our Hongmen Silver Vault as its own home." Lin Kai gritted his teeth with hatred, turning to look at the hole beneath the silver vault, and said solemnly, "Kong Xiu, have the craftsmen from the artisan department thoroughly fix this hole, and additionally, Li Longkai, move all this silver to the top floor of the Ministry building and store it in my room. I want to see what kind of skills this cat demon truly possesses." Chapter 1284, Chapter 422, Zhejiang's Predicament, True Sibling Affection, the Head Slasher Strikes Again. The 9th year of Great Xia, the first day of March just at dawn. Hongmen South City, Zheng's summer clothing workshop. During the dawn market break, Zhejiang, after tidying up and closing the door, immediately took a jar filled with silver taels and walked to the back, to the quiet room. Ding, ding, ding. As soon as she sat down on the chair in the quiet room, Zhejiang poured out all the scattered silver taels from the jar onto the table, then took out a small scale and began weighing and measuring them one by one. As the weighing work approached its end, Zhejiang's brow furrowed more deeply, and only when it was finished did she let out a slight sigh, her face full of worry. Deducting the cost of goods and then taking out 30% for commercial tax, the total profit for February is 8,920 taels, only 580 more than January. The current exchange rate between the Great Xia Camp Supply Department's contribution value and silver is basically fixed at 1 to 10, which means 1 tael of silver equals 10 contribution points. Earning 8,920 taels a month translates to 89,200 contribution points. When this Xia clothing workshop was first auctioned, Zheng Ru invested the majority, while Zhejiang only put in a quarter of the money. But since she was usually the one managing it, the shop's income was split equally between the two. Calculating this way, She earned 44,600 points in February, which is a considerable income in Great Xia. At least 70% of the cold resistance level members in the hunting team couldn't earn this much. Considering that those in the hunting team have to brave the frost each night to hunt cold beasts in the snow forest, often getting injured and even risking their lives, while she just has to stay in the shop to welcome and see off customers, this income is even more valuable. Unfortunately, it's hard for people to be satisfied. The first reaction after getting something is usually not contentment, but a desire for more. Jade is in this situation now. The shop opened on August 20 last year, and the net income for the 4 months of that year was 12,820, 13,720, 14,220, and 15,270, showing a constant upward trend. But after the new year, it couldn't continue, with January's profit directly having to 8,340 taels. This month, if not for acquiring some Beishuo silk cloth and blood jade fox fur, and making a batch of new-style summer clothes to attract new customers, there wouldn't have been any increase. I estimate the total profit wouldn't even reach 7,000 taels. After calculating in her mind for a while, Jiang's brow tightened further, her face even more troubled. There are now more and more shops selling summer clothes in South City, totaling nearly 50. The competition is starting to intensify, and after the new year the city is still unstable, the number of newcomers is clearly decreasing, so the rapid decline in profits is also normal. But these problems I can't solve. To reverse the decline in profits, I can only think of ways like last month by addressing the issue of supply sources. Of all the shops in South City at present, more than 95% are operated by people from Great Xia, and the supply channels for these Great Xia shops are without exception from the 4 workshops managed by the Xia City Craftsman Department: forging, alchemy, summer clothing, and woodworking. This leads to a problem. Any similar shops sell extremely homogeneous materials. In simple terms, the products are pretty much the same. Given that the products are identical, naturally everyone, when sourcing from the camp supply department, wants to choose the most popular types of materials. For example, over 50 shops selling summer clothes all source from the Xia Clothing Workshop. After several months of exploration, everyone knows which types of summer clothes sell well, which have high profits, and which don't sell well. So when sourcing, they all pick the good ones. But in doing so, the Xia Clothing Workshop is not pleased. All summer clothes are sewn from various grades of raw materials. According to the material's preciousness, the final summer clothing products are naturally divided into low-end, mid-range, high-end, and top-tier 4 levels. The resources of Great Xia are not infinite, and since they must first meet the needs of Xia City, what's available for sale each month is already limited. To balance sales, naturally, they choose portions from each of the 4 categories. Everyone only wanting one type is definitely not feasible, and given that the Hongmen business is still booming, the Xia Clothing Workshop directly set a rule: all sources must be mixed with 4 types. Additionally, as current production is limited and demand at Hongmen is greater than supply, the source quota for over 50 shops each month is directly divided equally by total volume. Actually, the intention of the camp supply department is apparent to everyone: to reduce competition between similar shops. The types and amounts of goods sold by everyone are the same, and as current summer clothing is in short supply, generally, the stores will be cleared out by the end of each month. So unless someone is willing to cut prices and sacrifice profits, business for everyone is roughly the same, and earnings are too. But as there are policies above, there are methods below. Since the camp supply department can't produce so many summer clothes, and the demand from newcomers at Hongmen is still large, the shops below naturally need to find more sources. It just so happens that at Hongmen, you can not only sell but also buy, so the more flexible shops begin to acquire other fabric-weaving raw materials and then make clothes themselves to sell outside. The Hongmen supply department has long known about the situation and hasn't imposed any blockage, as long as shops can pay the 30% profit each month on time. Of course, this involves the issue of costs and technology, and this relies on the skills of each shop. Jiang's talent in clothing is undoubtedly high. She was one of the earliest clothing makers at the Xia Clothing Workshop. Combined with her keen sense of fashion trends and a unique eye for updating and improving clothing styles, of the 50-plus shops selling summer clothes on this street, you could say that if she claims second place, no one dares claim first. Chapter 1285. Chapter 422. Jiang's Predicament: True Sibling Affection. The Decapitator Strikes Again, Part 2. For example, at the end of January when the goods arrived, the Xia clothing workshop released the blood jade fox fur for the first time. She immediately realized that these clothes would be a hit. As soon as she finished stocking up, she began purchasing blood jade fox skins in the city, and then she and the store assistants worked day and night to make over 300 pieces. This alone brought her at least 1,500 taels of profit. Just relying on purchasing, the profit margin is still too small. It seems I also need to take some time to go out hunting. This way, I can earn contribution value by submitting beast meat, keep the beast skin to make clothes and stock the store, and even sell other scraps in the city for some money. Zhejiang sat in the chair, bowing her head in contemplation, and soon came up with an idea. At the beginning of this year, the camp supply department had already issued new regulations. From now on, individual hunting gains in Great Xia do not need to be fully submitted. For low-level cold beasts, only beast meat must be submitted, and for intermediate and advanced cold beasts, only beast meat, beast blood, and beast bone need to be submitted. Other parts can be submitted for contribution value or kept for personal use. The choice is entirely up to the individual. Just like that, my hunting experience is too minimal, so I won't touch intermediate and advanced cold beasts for now. Hunting some low-level cold beasts around Baining Mountain shouldn't be a problem, and I can also gather some materials for dyeing in the mountains, reducing my clothing costs. I can't change the depressed situation in the city, so I can only try to cut costs and increase profit margins, aiming to boost my revenue back above 10,000 taels next month. Zhejiang is at the mid-stage of the cold resistance level, with the strength of a 7-maned. This strength is only used to hunt low-level cold beasts. If others knew, they would probably be dumbfounded. This has to bring up the care her brother showed her. 10 years ago, when their parents just passed away, Zhejiang was only 9 years old and Xia Hong was 14. The siblings were both not yet adults, so there was naturally no need for them to go out. When it reached the first year of Great Xia, Xia Hong turned 15 and became officially an adult. He almost took charge of everything at home, including the siblings' living expenses and cultivation resources, all earned by Xia Hong from the hunting team. In the 5th year of Great Xia, Zhejiang finally turned 15. She wasn't weak in talent and originally wanted to join the same hunting team as Xia Hong. However, Xia Hong refused without a second thought and strictly forbade her from going hunting, directly sending her to the camp supply department. It was only when she demonstrated remarkable clothing-making talent that she got into the Xia clothing workshop in the craftsman department. 2 years ago, Zhejiang broke through to the cold resistance level and could not bear it any longer. She declared that she had broken through to the cold resistance level, but had never seen what a cold beast looked like. After persistently pestering Xia Hong for a long time, Xia Hong finally took her to Redwood Ridge 3 times to personally experience the feeling of hunting cold beasts. When she just broke through to the cold resistance level, her strength was 2.6 maned. Naturally, she could handle low-level cold beasts easily, but she knew that those at the cold resistance level at the camp could normally team up to hunt advanced cold beasts. So after hunting 2 low-level cold beasts, she suggested trying intermediate cold beasts. She was somewhat famous in the inner city, often catching Zhu Ping, Liu Peng, Lu Dong, Zhao Yuankong, and the other younger boys for a beating. With her talent in cultivation, even if she hadn't hunted before, she was confident in her strength, believing that intermediate cold beasts would be a sure catch. However, the result was that her 2.6 main strength was helpless against an intermediate snow main when fighting alone. Moreover, in a desperate situation, if her brother hadn't intervened in time, she might have been seriously injured. It was at that moment that Zhejiang realized how much her brother had suffered over the years to take care of her. Of course, that dismal performance also brought Xia Hong's stern warning, clearly telling her that in future, when she is alone, she should only hunt low-level cold beasts at most. Zhejiang naturally kept her brother's words in mind. No matter how strong her 7 main power was now, she still only thought about going after low-level cold beasts. At least I should first accumulate some hunting experience. It wouldn't be wise to rashly deal with intermediate cold beasts. If I get injured, I'd have to waste money on healing pills and make my brother worry. It's unnecessary. After pondering for a moment, Zhejiang stood up, preparing to gather all the scattered silver on the table. But just halfway through collecting them, a voice came from outside. "Shopkeeper, why is there not a single piece of clothing in the store?" Upon hearing the voice, Zhejiang was momentarily stunned. Then she quickly realized, her face instantly full of joy. She immediately put down the jar in her hand and ran outside. Jiang rushed out to the outer room and saw a young man with strikingly handsome features, dressed in black summer clothes, standing in the middle of the store, looking at her with eyes full of affection. Who else could it be but her long-missed brother, Xia Hong? Wow, brother, it's really you. Seeing Xia Hong, Jiang couldn't help but shout in delight, rushing forward like an arrow straight into her brother's embrace. All right, you're all grown up. How can you still act like a child? Xia Hong's face was full of a doting smile as he patted his sister's head, thinking how they were both no longer young, yet still took on the air of an elder brother. After standing up, Jiang pouted with a cry-like tone. Brother, it's been almost 5 months since you last came to see me. If you hadn't told me in the letter not to leave the city, I would have gone to Bashing to find you several times. Seeing his sister's eyes turn red, Xia Hong's expression softened instantly, and he said gently, I just joined the Dragon Martial Army and am only in the reserves. I'm very busy in the Bashing military camp and wouldn't have had time for you even if you visited. See, as soon as I had time, I came to see you immediately, did I? Chapter 1286, Chapter 422, Jiang's Predicament, True Sibling Affection, The Head Cutter Strikes Again, Part 3. Jiang realized she was crying and felt a bit embarrassed, rubbed her eyes, and suddenly noticed the silver token at Xia Hong's waist, immediately picking it up out of curiosity. On the front of the token there were only 3 words, Dragon Martial Army. On the back, it read Reconnaissance Camp 5th Team Xia Hong. After looking at the token, Jiang immediately raised her head with uncertainty to look at her brother. Xia Hong, with pride on his face, said, Haha, the reconnaissance camp had a vacancy last month. Your old brother has officially become a member of the Dragon Martial Army's reconnaissance camp. That's great. Upon hearing this, Jiang was overjoyed, her face full of pride. Currently, in Great Xia, aside from officials in the 8 departments, the best path for ordinary cold resistance level individuals is to join the army. Not only do they receive a fixed military salary, but also half of the profits from hunting and battles can be directly retained. This single aspect surpasses 70 to 80% of cold resistance levels at the camp. Not to mention that her brother is in the Dragon Martial Army, which is one of the top among the 15 armies of Great Xia in terms of strength. Be it present treatment or future prospects, it's certainly the best. Seeing her brother filled with pride, Jiang suddenly remembered something, smilingly asked, Brother, you've broken through to the mid-stage cold resistance, haven't you? What's your strength now? Xia Hong nodded, a confident smile spreading on his face. I broke through 2 months ago. I now have the strength of 9 manes. Even knowing her brother has surpassed her, hearing about the 9 manes strength made Jiang's face reveal a touch of surprise involuntarily. Although her brother has top-grade battle body talent, he only broke through to cold resistance level in September last year. Now, it's only been 5 months and his strength has improved by 6 manes, equivalent to 1 mane a month. At this speed, he can rank among the top in Great Xia. Humph, isn't it thanks to the Yangyuan pill I sent you? Upon hearing his sister's words, Xia Hong's smile instantly disappeared. Looking down at Jiang, his expression became stern. Seeing her brother's serious face, Jiang's heart sank. Xia Hong took out 3 small porcelain bottles from his chest, speaking deeply. Jiang, now that your brother is an official member of the Dragon Martial Army, I won't be lacking in cultivation resources. You are not allowed to send me anything. Keep your contribution value for yourself, understood? After finishing his speech, he directly handed the 3 porcelain bottles to Jiang. Jiang picked up the small porcelain bottles, opened them one by one, finding that the 30 Yangyuan pills she had placed inside were still intact, which made her pretty face flush with anger. But looking up at her brother, seeing his serious face, she dared not speak further, and as she got more upset, her eyes gradually reddened, eventually turning her head away, silently shedding tears. Jiang, why are you crying? Don't cry. I just want you to keep more contribution value for yourself. I'm not blaming you. Please don't cry, Jiang. Seeing his sister crying, Xia Hong's heart softened immediately, hurrying to comfort her. Jiang was obviously very angry, stubbornly turning away from him, and after a long time her mood calmed down slightly. In a choked voice, she said, Brother, you've been taking care of me for almost 10 years now. I finally can earn some contribution value, and I just wanted to help you buy some cultivation resources. These 30 Yangyuan pills are what I managed to buy after saving my 3-month quota. Unlike me in the city every day, You and the dragon martial army often have to fight against cold beasts, which must be very dangerous. I thought if you improved your strength sooner, it wouldn't be so dangerous, and I'd be more at ease. You actually haven't used a single one, not a single one. Zhejiang got more upset as she spoke, choking up for a moment, then continued. You rely on yourself for everything, I also rely on you. Your cultivation speed has been dragged down by me. Suen, who is just 2 years older than you, your strengths were very close early on. Now there's such a gap, all because of me. Do you want me to feel guilty for a lifetime? Brother never thought so, Ajiang don't. Moreover, if your strength improves faster, won't you be able to protect me better? Being interrupted, Xia Hong was at a loss for words when hearing his sister's retort. Zhejiang seemed genuinely angry, directly raising the 3 small porcelain bottles in her hands angrily. These 30 Yangyuan pills, if you don't use them, you're trying to cut ties with me, so I'll just throw them away, and from now on, I don't want your contribution value anymore. Seeing his sister really throw the bottles, Xia Hong jumped up at once to catch them, helplessly said, all right, I'll use them. Seeing her brother put the bottles back into his chest, Zhejiang suddenly changed faces, her anger disappearing instantly, transforming into a smile, as she stepped forward and wrapped her arm around Xia Hong's, eyes full of mischief. That's more like it, ha. I can't compete with you, can't compete with you. Xia Hong tousled his sister's hair, his face full of helplessness, yet his pupils were decidedly more filled with comfort. The siblings grew up together. Zhejiang's nature he knows too well, that bit of acting, how could it possibly deceive her brother? Choosing to compromise was intentional. By the way, is there something wrong with your shop? Having just seen the shop empty of clothes, Xia Hong wanted to ask about it earlier. Now, with the matter of Yangyuan pills settled with his sister, he couldn't help his curiosity, beginning to inquire directly. Chapter 1287, Chapter 422, Zhejiang's Predicament, True Sibling Bond, The Head Taker Strikes Again, Part 4. As Zhejiang slowly narrated the situation, Xia Hong finally understood the shop's predicament. Something seems off in Hongmen City recently. 5 days ago, Director Yuan deployed the Dragon Slayer army here. He himself and Director Yuan seem to have come too. I heard there was a deceitful monster causing quite a bit of damage in the city. Xia Hong paused as he spoke, glancing at his sister, hesitant to speak. He came back this time, because he heard about the deceitful monster in Hongmen. His original intention was to have his sister leave Hongmen and return to Xia City. But considering what just happened and his sister's spirited demeanor when talking about the shop, suggesting her to leave Hongmen now seemed impossible. In that case, it might as well not be mentioned. So, your shop is currently lacking rare beast skin and valuable clothing materials. As long as you can solve this, you'll have a supply of goods, be able to offer more for sale and increase your profits, right? Xia Hong, quick-witted as well, immediately grasped the key point in Zhejiang's words and pointed out the operational difficulties of her shop. Exactly. Just relying on buying from others isn't financially viable for me, and the cost is a bit high, reducing the profit margin significantly. Bang! Xia Hong slapped his thigh and shook his head, saying, had I known, I wouldn't have handed all the beast skins and gathered clothing materials to the camp supply department. Seeing the confusion on Zhejiang's face, Xia Hong quickly explained further. Currently, the military system implemented by Great Xia is called the integration of military and hunting. The integration of military and hunting refers to soldiers fighting during wartime and undertaking more intensive hunting duties during peacetime. The Dragon Martial Army, stationed at Bashang, often goes out hunting even in the absence of war, but unlike a hunting team, they go out at least at the battalion level and occasionally use small torches to create beast tides to train troops. Therefore, during peacetime, the number of cold beasts hunted by the army is far more than that of a hunting team. Additionally, the soldiers only need to submit half of their hunting gains, so the hunting profits after joining the army are much higher than when they were in the hunting team. In the past few months, I've hunted a lot of cold beasts with the Dragon Martial Army, including many advanced beast skins. I basically submitted them all. Had I known you were in such need of beast skins, I would have kept them all for you. Hearing her brother's words, Zhejiang naturally felt a sense of regret. But never mind. From now on, any good beast skins I get from hunting and bashing, I'll keep and send to you. Also, there are other brothers in the army. Like me, they submit their beast skins to the bashing camp supply department. I could buy some from them at a slight markup and pass them on to you. How about that? Zhaijiang's eyes immediately lit up, nodding. That would be awesome. In the army, only half of the hunting gains need to be submitted, and the other half can be privately traded. The camp's supply department doesn't get involved as long as the purchase price is properly controlled. Buying them back and then selling them as clothing will offer good profit margins. By the way, brother, how long will you be staying this time? Xia Hong smiled and said, It's just my turn for leave. I have 7 days. Aren't you lacking beast skins? I'll accompany you to Baning Mountain during these 7 days. Hunting an intermediate cold beast isn't a problem, and I'll gather more beast skin materials to keep your store stocked and not empty. Since his sister cares so much about the shop, Xia Hong naturally wants to help her solve her problems as much as he can. With his current strength, teaming up with 2 or 3 others could easily take down advanced cold beasts, making intermediate ones no challenge at all. Brother, having you is just wonderful. Hearing that her brother was willing to accompany her into the mountains for hunting, Zhaijiang was naturally overjoyed. Overcome with excitement, she couldn't help but hold his arm a little tighter. The siblings, reunited after a long separation, naturally chatted for a long time. It wasn't until Zhaijiang remembered that her brother had just returned from bashing without much rest that she quickly closed the shop, took him to their residence in the North City, and eagerly prepared to cook a hearty meal to reward him and allow him to rest. With only 2 hours in the daytime, time quickly passed. As night gradually fell, the previously deserted streets of South City started to come alive. Many vendors began shouting their wares, and various shops along the street opened for business one after another, with more and more pedestrians appearing. At the same time, lights in the city buildings quickly lit up, and as patrol soldiers took their positions in South City, coal stoves, torches, and bonfires hung everywhere on the main street were all ignited. Just over an hour into the night, South City seemed to have fully awakened, entirely different from the daytime's quietness and tranquility, with throngs of people entering, leaving, going out, and arriving, lively and bustling. Of course, despite being a large city of 25 square kilometers, there remained shadows in some corners of South City, especially along the main street, where there were still several dark alleys with weak lighting in both the east and west residential areas. Some people, for convenience, preferred to walk through the dark alleys. To the west of the main street, a white-clad young man with a flushed face staggered out of a restaurant, swaying along the street northward for dozens of meters, evidently a bit disoriented. He paused momentarily, turned his head, looking at a dark alley on the left. This way is closer. Mumbling drunkenly, the white-clad youth unhesitatingly wandered into the alley. Although the light in the alley was extremely dim, it could barely cast a shadow of the white-clad youth. However, he was too drunk, causing his unsteady steps to make the shadow sway left and right, extremely unstable. Soon he ventured deep into the alley, about 100 meters from the main street, with few torches remaining on either side. The primary light source came mostly from the houses on both sides. Whoosh! A gust of ominous wind blew, causing the young man to shiver instantly. He turned his head to look behind him, then glanced to both sides. Hearing conversation from inside the houses, his tense expression slightly relaxed, and he smiled, shaking his head. Not afraid to fight cold beasts, but scared of this little wind. With that laugh, he continued to walk forward. He. But before he could take 2 steps, a chilling laughter suddenly came from beneath him. The expression of the white-clad youth instantly froze, and he stood rigid on the spot. It was only after 3 or 4 breaths that he dared to slowly lower his head and look at the ground. And his pupils shrank abruptly at what he saw, his face covered in cold sweat. Chapter 1288, Chapter 423, Shadow Demon Insect. Xianglang takes first credit, Chengping's regret. Thud. On the ground, the shadow cast by the firelight on the ground split open at the head, resembling a mouth curved in a cruel smile like that of a humanoid creature. The young man in white realized the laughter was coming from the ground shadow. His body froze in place and began to tremble uncontrollably, with eyes full of horror and fear. As the eerie laughter sounded once more, behind the shadow emerged another humanoid shadow wielding a long knife, silently placing the blade against the neck of the first shadow. The young man in white seemed completely petrified, not immediately drawing the sword from his waist, but instead reaching into his bosom. Whoosh! The shadow on the ground clearly did not wish to waste time, swiftly slashing the blade. Although it was merely a shadow with the person and the knife, its swing moved the surrounding air with a fierce edge sound. Sizzle! Yet at the critical moment, the young man in white pulled from his bosom a piece of yellow candle, which had been specially treated to ignite rapidly upon removal. As the yellow candle lit, the shadow on the ground let out a wretched scream, and its shape began to twist. Beep! With the yellow candle's light, a crisp and loud bone whistle sound rang in the surroundings. It turned out that the young man also took out a bone whistle along with the candle. Finally caught you, you wicked beast. The young man lifted his head abruptly, revealing that he was Xiang Liang, the vice chief of punishment of Hongmen. Not a hint of drunkenness left on Xiang Liang's face. The fear and horror in his eyes instantaneously transformed into sharpness and fierce. He continued to blow the bone whistle, then quickly unsheathed the knife from his waist, directly stabbing it into the twisted shadow. Clang! However, the knife coated with solidified fire oil pierced the shadow, not delivering the fatal blow Xiang Liang expected, only striking a spark at the point of contact and exacerbating the shadow's distortion. Yet the shadow clearly felt pain, its ferocity was triggered, and it again raised its knife, slashing at Xiang Liang's shadow head, continuing the previously incomplete action. Whoosh! Yet the once infallible shadow decapitation failed this time. Under the coverage of the yellow candle's light, it became merely a normal shadow. The knife's shadow passed without any impact on Xiang Liang. Whiz! The shadow seemed to realize what was happening and began rapidly shrinking into a fist-sized black dot, then swiftly escaped to the nearest building shadow. Everyone light the yellow candle, surround this filthy creature. Sizzle! However, just as the shadow escaped to the shadow region, a towering great hand in golden armor with a big saber rushed from a nearby alley. It was Zhu Xing, the colonel of the Cloud Dragon Army's reconnaissance camp. Upon arrival, Zhu Xing immediately ignited the yellow candle, securing his position in the shadow region, and then signaled others arriving behind him to light theirs. As the shadow region was illuminated, the shadow had nowhere to hide and continued fleeing towards other shadow areas. Sizzle, sizzle! However, Zhu Xing was first. As the bone whistle blew by Xiang Liang, hundreds of Cloud Dragon Army soldiers swarmed from all directions, each wielding a yellow candle. The entire dark alley soon became illuminated. As shadow areas decreased, the shadow's space for movement also diminished until it was eventually cornered in the last shadow area near the wall. Whoosh! A silver sharp arrow whistled through the air, accurately hitting the shadow region, but similar to Xiang Liang's knife, only sparked without causing fatal injury. Shriek! Yet different from before, the sharp scream emitted from the shadow region clearly contained intense pain, the black dot erratically darting like a headless fly within the shadow region, but dared not leap out. This black dot shouldn't be its true form, but it's certain it can only move within shadow areas. We'll find its real body. Lin Kai, dressed in red robes, leaped over from distant rooftops, standing above the wall, gazing at the black dot roaring in the shadow with a gloomy expression. The arrow he just shot, made of pure silver, was heavily coated with solidified fire oil, yet the black dot only showed a faint trace of fire, distinctly different from ordinary deceitful monsters. Whoosh and whoosh! Two more figures followed closely, standing beside him. It was Yuan Dao and Yuan Cheng arriving from other positions. 5 consecutive nights, finally caught it, this wretched thing sure is cautious. Yuan Cheng looked down at the shadow below, took out a silver small dagger, pierced a piece of solidified fire oil, and threw it towards the shadow region. Shriek! Similar to the scenario when Lin Kai shot the arrow earlier, the black dot within the shadow sparked upon being pierced by the dagger, emitted a shrill scream, but appeared uninjured, continuing to frantically dart around. Can only move within shadow areas. Yuan Dao observed the situation and immediately figured it out. Everyone gather, trap it in the middle. Chapter 1289, Chapter 423, Shadow Demon Insect, Xiang Liang's first merit, Cheng Ping's regret 2. Lin Kai gave an order, and more than 100 Cloud Dragon Army soldiers immediately raised their yellow candles and approached the shadow in the corner of the wall. When the light source arrived, the shadow zone in the corner naturally disappeared. The black dot, which was the deceitful monster's disguise, had nowhere to conceal itself and was thoroughly trapped by the yellow candle. As the soldiers moved closer, the yellow candle became more concentrated, and its movement space became increasingly smaller. That's enough. put the yellow candles on the ground and disperse. When its movement space was compressed into a circular area with only a 5-meter diameter, Lin Kai gestured for the soldiers to stop and told them to disperse. The soldiers placed the yellow candles on the ground and gradually dispersed. The black dot was still trapped in the middle. Although it tried to rush in all directions, it retreated whenever it approached the yellow candle light source. The yellow candle can prevent the deceitful monster's methods but can't destroy it, so we're just limiting its abilities, not allowing it to escape. Is that right? Upon hearing Yuan Cheng's question, Lin Kai nodded slightly and said solemnly, "This black dot is clearly not its true form. It must be one of its methods. Trapping it now is useless. We must find its true form to completely eliminate it." After speaking, Lin Kai thought of something, quickly took out a fiery red jade stone from his chest. Seeing the jade stone emitting a strong glow, he furrowed his brows slightly and said, "The stone is reacting, proving the true form of this deceitful monster is nearby." This jade stone was retrieved from Chu Dongning's corpse last month by Tong Xingsheng. Over the past 10 days, Lin Kai personally led the prison department in South City to track the deceitful monster's traces, and had confirmed that this jade stone's function was to sense nearby deceitful monsters. The closer it is, the stronger the jade stone's reaction. Now that the light is so intense, it clearly indicates that the true form of this deceitful monster is very close to them. Since it's not the black dot on the ground, what else could its true form be? While everyone present pondered, Xiang Liang, who had retreated to the edge, suddenly thought of something as he looked at the black dot surrounded by yellow candles in the corner. Hesitantly, he stepped forward and respectfully bowed to Lin Kai and the others. "My lords, since the black dot is just a method of this deceitful monster, I boldly suggest keeping those yellow candles that trap it and extinguishing all other light sources around to see if its method becomes ineffective." Upon hearing Xiang Liang's proposal, Lin Kai was slightly stunned but quickly processed it after a moment's thought, his expression slightly brightening. "That's right. The black dot is essentially a cluster of shadows, and it's created by its true form. The key to creating shadows is light sources." Yuan Dao was the first to react, looking at Xiang Liang with appreciation on his face. "By Shanning, have people block the alley and prevent people from approaching. Zhao Bao, take people and extinguish all light sources in the nearby residences. Zhu Xing, disperse with people, position yourselves by all nearby torches and coal stoves, and extinguish the fires at my command." "Understood." Lin Kai had already begun issuing orders on his side. All three nodded in response, and promptly began to organize according to his commands. First, the alley was blocked, keeping many curious onlookers outside. Then, the light sources in the surrounding residences were extinguished, plunging the area into darkness. Finally, near over 20 torches and coal stoves, a Cloud Dragon army soldier was ready with either beast skin or a bucket of water, waiting for Lin Kai's command. "Extinguish." Lin Kai wasted no time. Seeing everyone was ready, he drew the sword from his waist and gave the command. Bang, hiss. More than 20 light sources around were simultaneously extinguished, leaving only the yellow candle flame in the corner still alight. However, that little flame was naturally insufficient to make much difference, and the entire alley instantly plunged into darkness. Buzz. Whoosh. As darkness descended, a faint buzzing noise was heard, and Lin Kai instinctively raised his strong bow, directly shooting a silver-sharp arrow toward the top of a distant coal stove. Fizz. There was nothing visibly above the coal stove, yet the swiftly shot arrow visibly hit something and halted in midair. The solidified fire oil on the arrow quickly ignited, instantly producing billowing black smoke. Screech. At the same time, that painful and shrill screech sounded again, and the deceitful monster above the extinguished coal stove finally revealed its true form. It turned out to be a fist-sized black, humanoid flying insect. The term humanoid is used because, apart from a pair of transparent wings, the black flying insect had a head, torso, and limbs, making it indistinguishable from humans. But if you look closely, you find its face lacked facial features, only a gigantic mouthpiece taking up half its visage. Its limbs were more like 4 black sharp blades than hands and feet. Its torso was covered in a layer of jet-black carapace, resembling an insect. Buzz. The demon worm wasn't dead yet. It suddenly twisted its head and flew toward the yellow candle. It probably can't stay far from the black dot and can only move freely after retracting the black dot. Protect the yellow candle and shoot it with your bows. Yuan Dao quickly identified the demon worm's intention. Seeing that Lin Kai's strongbow hadn't stopped, he and Yuan Cheng also immediately grabbed their silver strongbows. The three of them stood around the yellow candle, continuously shooting at the demon worm with their bows and arrows. Chapter 1290, Chapter 423, Shadow Demon Insect, Xiang Liang's first merit, Cheng Ping's regret. After all, the demon worm can fly, and the three of them didn't have a chance for close combat. Since its range of movement is limited, using a bow and arrow to kill it is undoubtedly the safest choice. The speed of that demon worm is truly astonishingly fast. You have to know, Lin Kai's first arrow just caused it a not insignificant amount of damage, yet facing the continuous shots from Yuan Dao's strong bow, it could still avoid more than 90%. Swish, swish, swish. The three of them tirelessly shot arrows, firmly preventing the demon worm from approaching the yellow candle. While the demon worm's evasive movements were becoming more and more strenuous, the outcome was already obvious. What do you think? How much tension do the silver wing bow in the hands of the three lords have? It's evident just by watching. The camp needs department's current top-tier silver wing bows can only achieve a tension of 30 pounds. With the strength and financial power of the three lords, they are surely equipped with the 30-pound bows. No wonder the arrows burst with such a loud sound that many in South City could hear it. Quick, go disperse them, don't let them gather here. Quick, go retrieve the arrows shot by the three lords, don't let those people nearby snatch them all. After the three shot a total of over 100 arrows, the demon worm was basically left with only its head and main body. Its pair of transparent wings on the back, although still flapping furiously, were much slower than before. Anyone with keen eyes could see that it was at the end of its strength. Poof! In the end, Lin Kai's iron arrow accurately hit the demon worm's head. Hiss! A cloud of even denser black smoke rose from the demon worm's head. With the flare of fire suddenly growing, it became completely stiff in midair. When the fire disappeared, only a transparent round insect egg remained in midair. Strangely, the transparent wings on the demon worm's back did not vanish but kept fluttering, maintaining the insect egg suspended in midair. Simultaneously, the black dot surrounded by the yellow candle seemed to undergo some change due to the demon worm's death. It no longer feared the yellow candle and transformed into a black vapor, flying straight toward the insect egg. Whiz! The originally transparent insect egg, after absorbing the black vapor, instantly transformed into a highly textured black jade color. Lin Kai leaped from the wall, grabbed the insect egg directly, and landed, looking at the insect egg in his hand, a gleam shining in his eyes. The head cutter monster is finally resolved. Lin Kai held the insect egg and let out a deep breath, turning to the nearly 200 people involved in eradicating the monster tonight, his face full of smiles. Brothers, you've all worked hard these past few days. I will soon instruct the camp supply department to reward you based on your contributions. Once the Xia City Camp Needs Department assesses the value of this insect egg, everyone involved in tonight's operation will have a share. The faces of those who had been busy for several days naturally brimmed with joy. Zhao Bao and the people from the prison department especially let out a deep sigh of relief and looked at Lin Kai and the other two with faces full of gratitude. Lin Kai then turned his head to Xiang Liang, full of admiration, saying, Vice Chief of Punishment Xiang, who used himself as bait to draw out the deceitful monster, should certainly receive the highest merit tonight. I will personally request rewards for you from the minister, don't worry. Xiang Liang's expression was instantly invigorated. He slightly clenched his fists in his sleeves, hurriedly bowed to Lin Kai, and gratefully said, Thank you, Lord, for your promotion. At this moment, if anyone were to say who is the most excited, it's definitely Xiang Liang himself. Sending people through dark alleys to entice the head cutter monster to show itself was his suggestion. For the first 4 days, they sent at least 100 people as bait, but the head cutter monster just never appeared, and Xiang Liang had almost given up hope. Who would have thought it would succeed tonight? Moreover, it was quite the coincidence that the head cutter monster targeted him. First merit. With these 2 words, the huge risk he took tonight was worth it. All right, everyone, don't linger here. Those who need to patrol continue patrolling. This is only the first deceitful monster. There's no time to relax yet. Understood. Lin Kai dismissed the people from the prison department and Cloud Dragon Army before turning back to Yuan Dao and Yuan Cheng nearby, expressing gratitude with cupped hands. "Thank you both for your help tonight. The minister instructed me to preside over Hongmen. This is my duty." Yuan Dao replied politely, while Yuan Cheng's relationship with Lin Kai was so close that he skipped any formalities, simply gesturing toward Lin Kai's insect egg, and with a smile asked, "Are you not planning to use this insect egg? Some deceitful monsters can be directly slayed to gain special abilities, while others can give items upon being killed, and merging items can also grant abilities, which is no secret in Great Xia. This insect egg was slain by Lin Kai, so he naturally has the first right to use it." But Lin Kai's earlier words clearly indicated he did not intend to use this insect egg, hence Yuan Cheng's inquiry. Upon hearing this, Yuan Dao also expressed curiosity, smilingly asking, "That demon worm had quite a method of shadow manipulation to kill. Isn't it suitable, Lord Lin?" Upon hearing Yuan Dao, Lin Kai was immediately shaking his head repeatedly, looking at Yuan with a helpless expression, saying, "Director Yuan, please don't jest with me. If you genuinely wanted this insect egg, I wouldn't have even stood a chance to get it." Yuan Dao found Lin Kai's amusing words rather humorous and started laughing. Though he laughed, he did not deny Lin Kai's statement. Indeed, with his strength, should he really desire that insect egg, Lin Kai certainly wouldn't be able to compete with him. Actually, Yuan Dao roughly guessed the reason why Lin Kai didn't want to merge with this insect egg. The Lord said previously that everyone can only merge one deceitful monster item once in their lifetime, so it's best to choose carefully. I still hope to improve my top-grade battle body talent, so I need to be even more cautious. This demon worm should be a demon monster, obviously unrelated to enhancing talent, so let's skip it. Chapter 1291, Chapter 423, Shadow Demon Insect, Xiang Liang's first merit, Cheng Ping's regret. As expected, Yuan Dao heard the voice and immediately joked with a smile, "You're quite greedy." Yuan Cheng was even more outrageous. Hearing Lin Kai's words, he knew Lin Kai was envious of the master's organ in his body and couldn't help but show off, saying, "This is called luck, ah Kai, it's something you can't envy, ha ha ha." That annoying laughter was obviously intended to provoke Lin Kai. Lin Kai couldn't help but give him 2 punches, saying irritably, "Don't be too cocky. Maybe someday the Lord will kill another powerful, deceitful monster, and I've accumulated a lot of contribution value. None of you will be able to outcompete me then." Upon hearing this, Yuan Cheng nodded heavily and seriously said, "You hit the nail on the head. The Lord is so powerful, there will definitely be better opportunities in the future. As long as you prepare your contribution value, it will definitely be your turn." Yuan Dao couldn't help but joke, "Brother Lin better be careful then. I have no shortage of contribution value too. If a good opportunity arises, Yuan Dao won't be merciful. Director, please be generous, be generous." Lin Kai heard this and shook his head repeatedly. Honestly speaking, when it comes to net worth, aside from the minister, there are only 3 people in the entire camp he is wary of: Qiu Peng, Yue Feng, and the Yuan Dao in front of him. Of course, Yuan Dao was clearly joking, and Lin Kai naturally didn't take it seriously. The 3 joked all the way back to the government office building. "I'll head back to the barracks first. If Lord Lin has any need, just send someone to notify me. I'll head back to the barracks as well. If there's any situation with other deceitful monsters, let me know anytime." Yuan Dao is the director of the military department, and Yuan Cheng is the director of the garrison department. Normally, both should be in Xia City, but recently Yuan Dao had the task of overseeing Hongmen, and Yuan Cheng came to Hongmen due to the deployment of the Dragon Slayer army. Both stayed in the camp area since they didn't have permanent residences in the government office building. Since only one deceitful monster had been eliminated in South City, the 2 knew there would still be issues later, so they proactively told Lin Kai to inform them if there was anything. Lin Kai gratefully saw them off, and then turned back to the main building. As soon as he reached the top floor, he found Li Longkai guarding the door of the main hall, obviously waiting for him. Curiously, he asked, "Looking for me?" Li Longkai immediately stepped forward and cupped his hands. "My lord, Cheng Ping has returned from bashing he." Hearing this, Lin Kai frowned slightly. He waved his hand to stop Li Longkai and then led the way into the hall. Inside the hall, Cheng Ping was kneeling with a face full of remorse. Hearing someone approaching from behind, he turned to see Lin Kai and immediately turned to kowtow. Bang, bangs, bang. Cheng Ping was deceived by foreign traders and almost harmed 2 lords in the Great Xia. "It's my fault. Nothing could justify this, my lord. Lin Kai kicked over a cushion to stop Cheng Ping from continuing to kowtow, and then asked, "Has the portrait of the murderer who killed your eldest son, Cheng Yang, been reconstructed?" Hearing this question, the remorse on Cheng Ping's face instantly turned into a surge of hatred, and he said with a defeated tone, "After Lord Su repaired my memory in Bashing, I immediately found a painter there to reconstruct the person's appearance. As soon as I got back, I checked with the other 4 people, and it turned out to be a new face again." Upon hearing this, Lin Kai's expression immediately darkened. That despicable Chen Kang was cautious to such an extent. Cheng Ping is the 5th victim in Great Xia whose memory was altered. The 4 previous ones already went a-bashing to have Su Ning restore their real memory. They also reconstructed the appearance of the person who altered their memory, but all 4 reconstructed faces turned out to be different. Now Cheng Ping came up with yet another new face, which means Chen Kang changes his appearance every time he makes a move. How can he be caught like this? Lin Kai frowned tightly, looked down at Cheng Ping and asked, "Cheng Ping, your son was killed by that person, right?" Hearing this question, Cheng Ping clenched his fist under his sleeve, showing a bitter expression, and nodded, "That night, I went hunting with Yanger. That person killed Yanger right in front of me and then manipulated my memory to make me think it was." He paused, looked up at Lin Kai with deep remorse on his face, and continued, "He made me think it was Lord Lin who killed Yanger. Later, he said he could help me avenge his death, so I told him all about the Lord's route to Mayan. This is how the ambush at Fengyang village came to be." Bang, bangs, bang. After Cheng Ping finished speaking, guilt overwhelmed him again, and he repeatedly kowtowed to Lin Kai. "My lord, I'm at fault. I deserve to die 10,000 times. Enough, you're probably aware of it now. When your son Cheng Yang was killed, I already guessed that the person wanted to use you to attack me. I deliberately didn't let you go to Lord Su to restore your memory to use you to lure him out." Cheng Ping wasn't stupid and naturally had some suspicions. Even after the ambush incident at Fengyang village last month, he had a vague suspicion, but he was still convinced it was Lin Kai who killed his son, so he didn't think much of it. It wasn't until 3 days ago, when Li Longkai sent someone to escort him to Bashing, to find Su Ning to restore his memory, that he fully realized. Lin Kai not helping him restore his memory was one thing. Him conspiring with outsiders to harm Lin Kai was another. Although there is a connection between the two, his crime is undeniable. This is why he is kneeling here, continually asking for forgiveness. His biggest concern now is that Lin Kai would. "Are you afraid I will expel you from Great Xia?" Lin Kai looked down at Cheng Ping and suddenly asked with a smile. Hearing this question, Cheng Ping's face showed fear and he quickly prostrated himself, pleading, "Cheng Ping attacked the Lord. I know my crime is unforgivable, deserving death 1,000 times over. However, no matter how the Lord deals with me, it is just. But..." He paused with deep hatred welling up in his eyes and continued, "That man Chen Kang not only killed my son, but also manipulated my memory, causing me to commit such a crime. I vow to spend my life finding this person and destroying his son and even his entire clan, letting him experience the pain of losing a son and loved ones." Bang! The hatred in his tone had reached its peak. After finishing, he fiercely kowtowed once more to the ground, pleading, "If Cheng Ping is expelled from Great Xia, I will have no chance of avenging my son in this lifetime. I beg the Lord to forgive Cheng Ping just this once. No matter the punishment, Cheng Ping is willing to accept it, just to stay in Great Xia and have the chance to avenge my son." Cheng Yang just turned 14 this year, possessing earth-digging realm cultivation with basic strength over 25,000 jin. In terms of aptitude, he was undoubtedly outstanding among his peers in Great Xia. With continued effort, surpassing Cheng Ping was just a matter of time. Last month in South City, Cheng Yang accidentally collided with him once, so Lin Kai remembered him very clearly. Such an outstanding eldest son was rashly murdered, and upon hearing Cheng Ping's immense hatred, Lin Kai could understand why he lost his sanity last month and conspired with outsiders to harm him. "It's just a pity, a mistake is a mistake." Lin Kai shook his head and said, "You're lucky you only wanted to kill me and didn't intend to betray Great Xia. Don't worry, I won't expel you. Since you committed such a grave mistake, you can't continue working in the camp's supply department. I've discussed with Li Longkai, you'll serve half a year at the Longshan silver mine to offset this crime. How about it? Half a year serving at the silver mine. Such a grave mistake, and only serving half a year at the silver mine." Cheng Ping was initially stunned, then suddenly looked up at Lin Kai, his face full of excitement and even tears couldn't help but flow. He prostrated deeply. Guardian Lin's great kindness I will never forget. All right, you may leave now. Cheng Ping stood up, bowed deeply to Lin Kai, then turned and bowed to Li Longkai before respectfully exiting. Chapter 1292, Chapter 424, Reaping What They Sow, Hezeng's Orphan, Sudden Upheaval and Hatred. Cheng Ping indeed isn't guilty of any grave crime. His eldest son Cheng Yang, whom I've also met, was cherished by Cheng Ping from a young age. If it weren't for his memories being altered, he would never conceive the thought of harming the Lord. Sigh. Li Longkai watched as Cheng Ping exited the great hall and let out a slight sigh. Suddenly, he realized something and clasped his hands toward Lin Kai, saying, "My lord, as of last night, the last messenger sent to Beishuo has returned. Now, the portraits of Chen Kang's Chu Yanner and her group of 6, including the already slain Chu Dongning, all 7 images have been received by the 8 towns." At this point, Li Longkai paused, his face taking on a somber hue as he continued. Of course, the public decrees sent to the 8 towns clearly stated that these 7, including the one who incited the 9 towns, conflicts over the past 6 months, all came from the Kaiku feudal town. Good. Upon hearing this, Lin Kai immediately nodded, shaking his head with a cold smile as he said, "In Xia City they target children under 10. To stir up conflicts among the 9 towns, they recklessly alter others' memories. From the actions of these 8 people, we can basically deduce the operating style of Chen Kang's higher-ups. They pursue their goals without regard for means, disregarding human life, thinking they're the greatest in the world, treating others as non-persons. A camp like this, even if it rises to the feudal town level, is a great scourge. Since they enjoy inciting disputes, let them reap the consequences." Li Longkai nodded heavily, evidently in strong agreement with Lin Kai's words. The truth is indeed so. The individual from Chen Kang, in order to incite conflict among the 9 towns, has killed nearly 200 people over the past 6 months, all without discrimination. Anyone with a bit of influence in each town was targeted. To eliminate Lin Kai, they even ruthlessly targeted an underage child like Cheng Ping's son Cheng Yang, highlighting the callous nature of that person from Chen Kang. If it were only him, it might be considered an isolated case in Chen Kang. But that group of 7 with Chu Yanner infiltrated Xia City and also attempted to act against a bunch of children in the inner city, which is convincing enough. Looking at a part to understand the whole, the Ice Abyss's camps all basically follow top-down influences. The conduct of these 8 indicates that Chen Kang's leaders can't be much better. Thinking of this, Li Longkai couldn't help but feel a surge of aversion towards Chen Kang, coldly sneering. There are quite a few Kaiku spies hidden in the 9 towns. Once the portraits of these 7 are thoroughly disseminated, the blame for stirring up the 9 towns will be squarely on Kaiku's shoulders. Those spies will surely relay the information back. By then, no explanation from Chen Kang will matter, and the 2 feudal towns will inevitably develop friction. Li Longkai had already learned from Lin Kai that blaming Chen Kang's deeds on Kaiku was Xia Hong's idea, and so upon mentioning it, he couldn't help but first show admiration before laughing and continuing. "The Lord's move is truly brilliant, ha ha ha." Lin Kai couldn't help but laugh as well, his face also full of admiration. Xia Hong's move was indeed brilliant. Judging by Kaiku's current behavior of only dispatching spies, they were likely worried about arousing vigilance and defense among the 9 towns, so they didn't want to reveal themselves too early before the 9 towns people. And with Great Xia's tactic of pointing at a deer and calling it a horse, deliberately labeling Chu Yanner and her group as Kaiku's people, not only exposed Kaiku thoroughly, but also pinned the nearly 200 deaths caused by the Chen Kang person all on them. If Kaiku's leaders think a bit, they'll naturally conclude. Chen Kang, in order to seize the initiative to expand, chose to kill and lay blame, deliberately causing the 9 towns to be wary of Kaiku. By then, no matter how Chen Kang tries to explain, it will be futile. After all, Great Xia is the weaker party, and since they also provided accurate portraits of Chu Yanner and her group, no matter how clever Kaiku is, they wouldn't suspect Great Xia of deliberate mischief. Plus, since both sides want to expand southward, natural discord exists. From either motives or outcomes, it can only appear as Chen Kang's intentional framing. So, my lord, since the 8 towns have been notified, can we also fully publicize those 7's portraits throughout Great Xia now? Of course, and not just those 7. Lin Kai promptly replied, then paused before continuing. After Chen Kang's people failed at intercepting in Fengyang village, they probably realized their memory-altering tactic has failed here. Although they shouldn't make further moves, as a precaution, we should completely disclose their information to prevent another situation like Cheng Ping's. Li Longkai immediately nodded. Last October, after the Three Towns Chamber of Commerce case was resolved, the minister suggested to the 8 towns leaders not to reveal this person's memory-altering technique lest the snake be startled. Though the situation of the other 8 towns isn't clear, in Great Xia, it wasn't fully disclosed. Until now, only mid to high-level officials and soldiers with higher authority knew about it. The memory-altering technique thrives on secrecy and the inability to defend against it. Once many people are aware and mentally prepared, plus Great Xia possesses a countermeasure, it becomes difficult for the technique to be effective again. So, fully revealing it to the public also quashes any thought of using this method to continue stirring up conflicts among the 9 towns. At dawn, officially announce it. Paste portraits of Chu Yanner and her 7 people, along with general information on Chen Kang, throughout the South City, and send people to Bashing to notify Lord Su, so it's also publicized there simultaneously. I will do it right away. Just as Lin Kai and Li Longkai reached a decision in the Great Hall. South City West District, number 172 residence. The door was pushed open from the outside, and a young man in his early 20s, dressed in black and looking somber, walked in quickly. He nervously closed the door, then hurriedly headed towards the inner chamber. Chapter 1293, Chapter 424, Suffering the Consequences, Hezeng's Orphan, Upheaval and Hatred, Part 2. The young man in black entered the inner room and immediately tore off his shirt. On his chest was tattooed a silver-white kitten. The kitten's body occupied only half of the man's chest, about the size of a human palm, but the 8 thick, long silver tails almost enveloped the man's entire upper body and arms. The kitten was entirely silver-white except for its 4 black paws, around which seemed to swirl a layer of dark air. Its fur was detailed and clear, with a pair of unusually conspicuous silver-white eyes, its head raised and mouth open, revealing sharp fangs, as if ready to bite the man's neck at any moment. The man looked down at the silver 8-tailed cat, his eyes first showing a trace of fear, but then, thinking of something, he spoke angrily, saying, "The shadow demon insect has been killed. You can't just act rashly anymore. There are more and more people patrolling South City these days, and their strength is getting stronger. I was watched when I went to Treasure Tower to buy Dan medicine. If you act on your own again, you'll get both of us killed." As soon as the man finished speaking, the tattoo of the kitten on his chest suddenly burst into a strong silver-white light. As the light rose, the man's expression began to turn painful, and the degree of pain was clearly increasing until his face contorted in agony, collapsing to the floor with a thud. Ho! It wasn't over. Suppressed, low sounds of pain kept coming from his throat, his body writhing and struggling on the ground, waist and abdomen suddenly lifting upward, hands and feet bracing on the ground, limbs twisting to strange angles. As the man's limbs twisted further, a thin layer of silver fur suddenly grew all over his body, eyes gradually enlarged, nose slowly shrank, hands and feet becoming sharp, clearly undergoing some sort of beast transformation. However, this beast transformation only proceeded halfway before stopping abruptly. "I lost a life to get you out of Hezeng, stole so much silver for you to buy cultivation resources and become stronger. You don't even show gratitude and dare to shout at me." With the beast transformation suddenly halted, the young man in black opened his mouth, but this time it wasn't his voice. It was a cold, female voice, clearly coming from the cat demon inside him. "Sounds nice, you thief. Mainly for yourself. Don't think I don't know. You've secretly infected a dozen people with cat plague. What are you trying to do? You saw last September the strength of the great Xia Lord is very strong. If you really attract him, both of us will die." The young man in black was still unwilling to give in, roaring angrily, biting teeth to endure the severe pain, continued. "Finally escaped from Hezeng, I want to go back for revenge. Don't think you can kill me here. If you act without my consent again, we'll each go our separate." Just as he finished speaking, he let out a scream as the halted beast transformation restarted, and at a faster speed than before, his body shrank to less than half its original size in 2 or 3 moments, almost completely covered in silver fur, limbs turned into claws, face fully transforming into that of a cat. "Separate ways. Pretty naive of you to think so. You think it's still like when we just escaped from Hezang and everything has to be discussed between us. Your organs have been completely assimilated by me using cat plague. If it wasn't for the convenience of blending in with people, I would have taken over your skin bag long ago. Ha 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 ha. The cat demon let out a piercing, deranged laugh, then spoke with madness. Now you can only obey me. Hongmen City not only has a lot of silver but also many people with cultivation abilities, perfect for me to recover perfect. Ha 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 ha. In the 9th year of Great Xia, on the 3rd day of March, during the northwest direction of Hongmen, outer area on the southern side of Baining Mountain. In the tranquil snow forest, a female corpse lay on the snow. Her appearance seemed less than 20 years old, with a deep knife wound on her neck, the inner bone clearly visible, nearly severing her head entirely. Although her pre-death appearance suggested charm, she was, after all, a corpse, her pupils round and her face preserving a death's fear, thus truly unrelated to beauty. On the corpse was a young man in black kneeling. The young man's back had 2 knife wounds, with blood frozen by the cold, but his weak breath, unlike the female corpse, indicated he was not dead but merely in a coma. Even unconscious, the young man kept his arms open, protecting the corpse beneath him, his face filled with terror and pleading. His facial expression and the snow stains on his forehead suggested he must have desperately begged the murderer not to kill while awake. Brother, father, and mother were killed by the wood puppet monster. What will we do in the future? Brother, the Lord is so strong, he hunted prey again. Will you get a share? Brother, you broke through to the logging realm. Great, ha ha ha. Jiang also broke through to the logging realm, ha ha ha. Brother, we are moving to the valley, to start living in a new place. Xia Hong suddenly had a very, very long dream. The dream began more than 10 years ago on the Great Xia Slope. He was 14, holding his 9-year-old sister Jai Jiang, watching as their parents were killed by the wood puppet monster, marking the darkest moment of their lives. Chapter 1294, Chapter 424, Reaping What One Sows, Hezang's Orphan, Shocking Upheaval and Hatred, Part 3. Xia Hong remembered very clearly that at that time, he even harbored the thought of taking his sister with him to die, thinking that only in this way could they continue living with their parents. But after that his life changed. Lord Xia Hong brought back prey for the first time. He and his sister received beast meat for the first time. His basic strength broke through 5,000 pounds, and he joined the logging team. He moved with his sister, following everyone from the camp from the mud slope to the valley, moved into a wooden house in the main building with his sister. Later, his sister also broke through to the logging realm. After the Great Xia Valley restructured, he earned enough contribution value to buy land and moved with his sister into a new home. After enduring the darkest moments, with Lord Xia Hong taking over, their lives as siblings began to improve day by day, with beast meat, clothing, refined salt, fine wine, Dan medicine. All kinds of novel resources constantly emerging in the camp like bamboo shoots after rain. They lived a life they could never have imagined before. Brother, I want to join your hunting team. Please let me join, okay? The camp supply department is too boring, brother. I've joined the Xia clothing workshop in the craftsman department. Brother, I've broken through, and it's a top-level combat body qualification. Ha 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 ha, how about that? Am I amazing? Am I amazing? Brother, you've also broken through, and it's a top-grade battle body qualification. That's great. Guess who I am? The dream continued. Sister Jai Jiang's qualifications were much stronger than those of her useless brother. At just 15, her basic strength was close to the limit of 30,000 pounds, and she even quarreled with him about wanting to join the hunting team. Of course, in the end, he refused her. It's so dangerous for a girl to fight cold beasts outside. It's safer to obediently join the camp supply department and stay in Xia City. In the 7th year of Great Xia, his sister surprisingly broke through to the cold resistance level before him, and it was still a top-level combat body qualification. Xia Hong was overjoyed at the time, and spent a lot to buy a pound of Phoenix Yang drunk from the camp supply department to celebrate with his sister. The dream moved to the 8th year of Great Xia, September, because he risked coordinating with Xiao Hen to save a group of people in Jiangxia town. He received a personal commendation from the Lord and was given a pound of Jiao Long blood, successfully breaking through to the cold resistance level with top-grade battle body qualification. As soon as he broke through, he received an invitation from Vice Commander Yu Wenyang, becoming a reserve member of the Dragon Martial Army, and his name suddenly spread throughout the Bashing area. This stage of the dream ended on the night of September 16th, the 8th year of Great Xia, when he was escorting materials with the Dragon Martial Army to Hongmen City, planning to visit the South City during his leave. As soon as he stepped into South City, his sister Jade covered his eyes from behind. In the dream, Xia Hong seemed to sense something. A hint of panic appeared on his face. He didn't dare to turn to look at his sister and didn't want the dream to continue. However, the dream did not stop because of his resistance. After the Battle of Hongmen ended, he found Lin Kai to help his sister with the issue involving Su Wen. Despite the humiliation from the Zhao brothers, as long as he thought of his sister's crisp laughter, a smile would arise at the corners of his mouth. The timeline in the dream moved to the 9th year of Great Xia. In February, the Dragon Martial Army finally had an opening, and he transitioned from a reserve to a formal member of the Scout Camp's Team 5. At the end of February, he welcomed his first rotation break from military service, with a total of 7 days of leave. He hadn't seen his sister Jai Jiang for 5 months. Without any hesitation, Jai Hong packed his things, bade farewell to the captain, and headed straight for Hongmen City. "Brother, you've been supporting me for nearly 10 years. Now that I can finally earn some contribution value, I wanted to buy you some cultivation resources. You rely on yourself for everything, and I rely on you. Your cultivation speed has always been slowed down by me. Brother Su Wen is just 2 years older than you. In the past, your abilities were actually very close, and the big gap now is because of me. Do you want me to feel guilty forever? If your strength could improve faster, wouldn't you be able to protect me better?" Because of the Yangyuan pill, Jiang argued with him. As usual, it ended with him compromising. "If your strength could improve faster, wouldn't you be able to protect me better?" In the dream, Jai Hong repeated this sentence from his sister. It was as if he suddenly remembered something, and his expression twisted, clutching his head, unwilling to continue the dream, pulling out the blade from his waist, wildly slashing at the scene in front of him, trying to escape the dream. However, no matter how hysterically he behaved, the dream still continued. "Brother, it's really great having you." When he learned that his sister's shop faced difficulties, he decided to use his 7-day leave to go hunting in Baining Mountain with his sister, to stock up on more beast skin materials for her. He returned on the day of the 1st of March, and Jiang, feeling sorry for him, first treated him to a meal and let him rest properly. Just as Jai Hong was indeed very tired in the military, he slept until the early hours of the 1st of March. Upon waking, he realized his sister had already prepared everything. So the two of them headed into Baining Mountain together. "No, don't go into the mountain, don't go into the mountain." In the dream, Jai Hong was both within it and like an outsider. He watched as another version of himself took his sister into Baining Mountain, suddenly realizing something, his face full of fear and panic, desperately trying to stop them. But he could do nothing, only watch as the two of them plunged into the dark, cold snow forest at the outskirts of Baining Mountain.